only John Mickey said.
So what if you?
We have our second meeting scheduled. We rock. That's a 6 o'clock night we have to schedule.
That doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. As I said, we can. TV's are on. Hope the TV's are on. We can fix this at home. That is usually turning on until the minute it starts. Or at least that's been my experience.
Just to close read the minutes.
Who?
Our former commissioner.
Used to what?
Close read the minutes.
Close.
She used to edit the grammar.
I do have I did find a mistake in the minutes, though. Not a mistake, a correction.
My corrections made. Great.
I can find them.
I just turned it on. Sorry. It was off though? Yeah. Is everybody's mic on? Susan, can you turn your mic on? And we'll turn this one off. We're not expecting this screen share.
I thought, I think.
We're not, well, yes, we are expecting that person, yes. We're waiting for one more commissioner, and we'll at least let staff get back before starting.
If I disappear, you'll know why.
You won't disappear.
That's true. I'll just do it. All right, I don't forget.
I think we should go ahead and get started. Oh, well, we'll wait a moment. Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Traffic and Safety Commission to order. Aleda, would you call roll?
Yes, Commissioner Susan Reeves,
Present.
Commissioner Peggy McQuaid,
Present.
Chair McCroskey,
Present.
Commissioner Mickey is absent and excused. Commissioner Javander is absent.
Great. The commissioners have had a chance to look at the minutes from our meeting on June 27th. Are there any comments or corrections?
I have a slight correction. On page, I believe it's on page 3, it's item 6-3. Third paragraph, discussion was open to the public. His name is Paul O'Curry. You know, us Irish people like our little letters.
Susan, did you?
Nope.
No?
That's
Can
all.
I get a movement to approve the minutes?
I'll also move.
I'll second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries. This brings us to our public comment period for items that are not otherwise on the agenda this evening. If you do have a comment for an agenda item, there will be public comment for each of those agenda items. And in general, we give you 3 minutes. And if you're going to give your name this evening, we ask that you submit one of our small comment cards from the back so that we can spell your name in the minutes correctly.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Preston Jordan. I just wanted to provide a little update on the Greenway, some items that we brought to you in public comment last time. And that's a very hard picture to see, but that's looking south at Dartmouth and Masonic. And the point is at the shoulder in that location, which is on the left side, it's kind of underneath the pine needle debris ends in the grass instead of continuing all the way onto the pavement to meet the pavement. And Ray Chan kindly put me in contact with Greg Jacobs, and he's going to have Bart fix that. I don't know if it's been fixed yet, but he said that's going to get fixed. And then we also brought to you this bike rack last time that if somebody parks a bicycle there, will block part of the path. And Bart has committed to fixing that as well. And I don't know the status of this item, which is the trees that are planted within a foot of the edge of the path. I've had some interaction with Tony Walcott, but I haven't heard that the city's committed to moving those, removing those, and those are obviously going to become a problem with time. So we're still waiting to get some final disposition on that. I want to thank the city because the 3-lane configuration that this body voted for a few months ago has now been implemented on the open sections, which I didn't realize Bart was going to do that before the new sections or the final sections were built. So we're very excited about that. This shows the configuration at one of the entryways. And here's another picture of the configuration. It's not as easy to see, but you can see the cyclist is in their lane off on the right side. One concern we had, if I go back, is that there's no symbol for the pedestrian lane, which is unlike any other 3-lane path we've seen and used as our examples in the area. So it's not evident on the pavement who's supposed to be where. Also on the long block between Brighton and Portland, very long block. There's no symbols mid-block. They're only at the entry. And we think it would be useful to have the symbols mid-block there, at least on that block as well. There are signs that are going in. You can kind of see the edge of one here that is hidden by another sign. That's a temporary construction sign that'll be removed. So the sign says cyclists stay left, pedestrians stay right. And I'm informed there'll be a sign at the other end saying pedestrians stay left, cyclists stay right. But we think having the symbols on the ground, as is conventional elsewhere in the city, would be very useful. I mean, elsewhere in the Bay Area. So this is an example of the new path to the Golden Gate approach to get to the Golden Gate Bridge. And you can see the pedestrian symbol there in the lower left. So it's very clear to everybody where they're supposed to be. And it's not a high cost item to add those. And then this is the path in Crissy Field, also in San Francisco. And you can see the big pedestrian symbol off on the right there. So we would ask the city to have the pedestrian symbol painted in the lane on the ground because, I don't know how well the signs are going to work out. I have talked to Greg Jacobs about that, and he said he doesn't really want to impinge on Bart to do that because it's already done so much for us, but maybe that's something the city could add later at nominal cost. But in any case, we would like them added however they're added. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other general comments not on the agenda topics? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to the presentation of our police report.
Great, good evening. I'm sorry we missed last month's. Sergeant Willis was going to be here, but apparently somebody decided to flee one of the officers from a detention, so they were set up on a perimeter. Luckily, they caught him, so I apologize about missing last month. So for May, we had a total of 16 collisions. We had 11 non-injury collisions, 5 injury collisions, 5 hit and runs, and 2 collisions involving bicyclists. And we issued approximately 192 moving citations.
Wow.
And on to June, we had a total of 12 collisions, 10 non-injury, 2 injury collisions, 3 hit and runs, 1 collision that occurred on Marin, and we issued approximately 103 moving citations.
Any questions from the commission? No? All right, thank you very much.
Great. All right, thank you.
So we'll move on to our general topic number 6, which has the main meat of our meeting. And we have item number 6.1, a request from AC Transit to relocate the number 25 and Transbay bus stops.
I need to recuse myself from this one.
I also need to recuse myself. I live too close.
You guys have to
That's going to leave us without a, so the issue here is that we have 2 commissioners who need to recuse themselves because they live in close proximity to this item. Because that would leave us without a quorum, we're going to randomly choose one of those commissioners to stay so that we have a 3-member quorum to decide on this issue.
Flip a coin.
Flip a coin, sounds like a good idea.
You call it.
Heads. Heads.
Let's use a real coin, yeah.
I don't think I have a coin either. Think of a number.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Susan.
So Susan will stay, and Fareed will leave.
So this item was here in March, but in order to ensure that all interested parties had an opportunity to voice their opinion, we actually are holding the meeting again and actually have an opportunity for people who couldn't attend at the last meeting when we discussed this in March, will have the opportunity to attend tonight. So the request from AC Transit actually came to the city last year when we were actually repaving the Pierce Street and the Pierce Street pavement, and the request was to move the existing bus stop for Route 22 in the Transbay from near side Solano and Pierce to far side from near side Solano and Pierce to far side, from near side Washington Pierce to far side Washington and Pierce. And I want to see if I can transfer to this image that is here.
I've got it up on my computer. Oh, okay. I'll just plug it. I'm plugged in. It's going to take a second to come up. So we're not showing it yet. Are you sure you switched to the mayor channel? There we go.
That's basically the notification area, the picture that shows the frame, the orange frame there. And the existing bus stop is from the near side Washington and Pierce Street, and the request is to move it to the far side of the intersection of Solano and Pierce, which is basically within the same block.
Right, so if you can see my pointer, this is the existing stop, and this is the proposed area to move it to.
That's correct.
And
It-
if I'm not mistaken, this corner has changed?
That corner is changed. It used to be a stop, like a right turn and then through. There was a stop sign there, and it was a right turn lane there. But it was, that radius was reduced. Also, the curve was painted red in anticipation to the bus to be moved. And so that's basically what that we have done. So,
You'll have a chance to comment.
yeah. So in March, we actually considered this, and you guys didn't have any objections. We basically didn't have anybody to comment on that, and that's the reason we have it right now. So operationally, as we have discussed with the Complete Streets process, for buses to be on the far side is easier for them to stop and to stick to the time that they have, the schedule, and they have a better chance to actually align to the bus stop and do not obstruct traffic. So on the far side, because it's safer because the crosswalk is on the back of the bus too, and it does not. Pedestrians are not crossing in front of the bus, even if there's as we have discussed many times on this position, on this commission, we have usually pedestrians cross in front of the bus, obstructing visibility of the oncoming cars. And by having the pedestrians cross the intersection in the back of the bus, that doesn't happen. Oncoming traffic has better visibility of pedestrians crossing at any intersection. That's basically the safety issue.
I'm sorry, but
You
will have a chance to ask questions. This is a chance for the staff to explain, for the commissioners to ask questions. Then we turn it over to the public for public comment and questions.
Vehicles who
That's why I'm explaining.
vehicles who do the right turn coming from Solano will also have a better visibility of the passengers or pedestrians who are actually walking behind the bus.
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
I don't have any.
Susan? You're thinking. Okay, well, I had a question about the length of the bus and the driveway here at the current bus stop. Does the bus actually block this driveway when it's stopped?
Most likely, yes, but Stephen Newhouse is from AC Transit, and he will clarify any kind of technical questions like that based on bus length and everything. According to the guidelines of transit design, or design with transit in mind, a minimum of 60 to 65 feet should be provided for bus stops in order to align to the curb. But you can clarify it if you want to just add to that.
Please.
So Stephen Newhouse, AC Transit. The origin of this request was that that little piece of Pierce or Cleveland, whatever it's called, as you're coming on Buchanan, you decide not to go on the highway. Yeah.
Buchanan Avenue.
Thank you, Buchanan Avenue. So the closure of Buchanan Avenue required that the bus, instead of continuing on Cleveland and looping around and then making a left onto northbound Pierce from eastbound Solano, the bus now has to travel north on Pierce the entire way from Buchanan to further north. And so previously, we had been unable to use the red curb that was painted when this corner was reconstructed. And so we were at the near side of Washington, where we don't have red curb. I think there's like a car length's worth of red curb. And so the bus can't pull flush to the curb. It's an issue if you have a passenger in a wheelchair. So we were just asking if we could use the existing red curb that's on the near side of the preceding intersection.
Great.
Is there, I know that there's a grade right there. It's a hill. I mean, it's part of the hill. So what effect does that have from a bus standpoint, not pedestrian coming off, or riders coming off that bus?
Sure. So I'm not an engineer.
Okay.
So to any extent that it has an impact on ADA requirements, I can't answer that.
Okay.
About the Pier Street grade?
Yes. It goes up from the house to that apartment building. There's a grade to that. So I don't know if it's better to have the bus at the bottom of it or the.
Well, I mean, the least distance that a person has to push herself or himself on a wheelchair or somebody pushing on a hill is better to access the bus stop.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So at this time, we'd like to open it up to public comment, and we'll give you 3 minutes to ask questions or make comments. And please come up to the podium, yes.
Well, we are the property owners that the bus stop would be in front of. And so obviously, we don't want it there. For having to do with the property value of our house, that will impact. And I fail to see why that would be an improvement in safety. When you have a bus that's going to be stopping here, you will have cars that are going to want to go around that bus on that very narrow street at that corner. And so if someone goes in front of that bus, I assume they're free to go any way they want. They can go in front of that bus or in back of it when they're crossing the street. You're going to have a car going around that bus that wants to speed by it once it's on that corner. Which is what they do. Okay? Yeah, and that's going to create a greater safety hazard. I'm lost as to why this is a safety problem, having that bus up there. We've never seen that bus block that driveway. I don't know why that's a problem.
Ma'am, you'll have a chance too. Could you? I understand.
You go after me, okay?
We'll give you the full time for each of you.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, those are basically yeah, it's a personal reason. I mean, the noise is it's loud, it gets very crowded, where dogs are going to be barking constantly. I bring my dogs out, and there's going to be people coming off that bus. Hope they're okay, okay? It's not a problem if it's up there. I just don't see why this is a big safety hazard and that thing has to be moved back. Also, we were not told that the reason that we used to have a significant parking space in front of our property, and then they extended that red zone. And we were told that that's how it always was, to our amazement, because we lived there 3 years and it wasn't. We weren't told that that it was extended because they're going to put a bus stop in there. No one told us that. And that's another issue. You know, yeah, I mean, quite simply, we don't want the noise. We know it's going to drop the value of our property, and that's an apartment building that you have in front there. I don't think it's going to impact that much as it would an individual dweller in a house on a resale. And so, I mean, we adamantly oppose this new bus stop. We think it's going to be more dangerous, especially as cars are going to try to go around that bus on that very narrow street, and that's going to cause possibly more safety problems. So,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you. Would you like to speak as well?
Well, I just want to say that I really don't like.
We do record the meetings and we're broadcast. So
Please ask for the name.
Look, I've never done this
And-
before. Could you please be, a
I'm
bit
trying to.
understanding?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound short.
I'm very upset about this. You know, this is our home. We want to stay here, and we're going to have to. We already have a lot of noise, okay? And this is just going to be even worse. And there's going to be people standing outside the front of our house when we want to leave or go somewhere or get to our car. We've got the hazard of bumping into these people. And it just doesn't seem right to me. And I really don't like the way this was handled. We were never informed about the red line in front of our house. In fact, I called and I asked, and they said that it had always been there and that it just peeled away. And that was why we didn't know. And so we accepted that, but we were not informed about this bus stop. And so I just don't know what's going on here. I'm just very unhappy. I think it's going to be dangerous because just the other day I was parked on the corner and cars are just going right around me. They're so impatient. They're not going to stop for a bus. They don't stop for anything. So I don't see the safety. I don't see how it's going to be safer. I really don't. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments.
Can you provide your names, please, for the record?
Ty Gale, T-Y, last name G-A-L-E.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments on this issue? I don't believe so. Let's bring it back to the commission. Any comments?
I've seen many cars pull around the buses when they're stopped on Pierce Street. I honestly don't know which place would be safer for the current travel condition on Pierce Street. It's true, it's narrow. Cars do go very fast, and I question. It's hard to see on here if the bus has enough room to park with the driveway. I mean, I know the driveways. I don't think the driveways are used all that often, but there's two driveways in the middle, so it's hard to kind of see where the bus stops. I do know the curb is extended, so maybe it's plenty of room.
You're thinking in this area on the right.
Is there enough room between that driveway and the bus to stop? How far out does the curb go? Be easier to see it if it was.
Talking about the,
That area right in front where you see the car, that is a parking area.
Right.
So it extends back. It doesn't go all the way up to the driveway.
So if that's a car, then there's plenty of room for a bus to park. It does look. I'm concerned because it is a hill. So if a car comes around the bus at the bottom, I don't know the visibility. It feels like I need some engineering direction here, like which location, because it's different because I bike up that, and it's two different lanes.
this is an older photograph. If you see, I think there is you have the pork chop and the stop there. So this one has the right turn. It has been modified.
Yes, so it's longer. So I think the bus can fit there.
It does.
Yeah.
There are also cars that come out of the alleyway and right in the middle there. A lot of cars come out there in that street.
Ma'am, you didn't use up your time. If you have more comments. We have a format of protocol that we follow. I've allowed a little speaking. Perhaps that's my mistake. You had a comment about the alleyway. Would you like to come up and tell us more about that? I'm sorry. I hope I... Well, obviously this is a charged issue for you, and I hopefully have treated her with respect. I've tried to. Okay. Staff comments, other commission comments?
Regarding the concern about the stopping, and there's a bus stop there, I think if somebody actually goes on the opposite line, should go back to traffic school of a bus. I mean, prudent.
What would they do? They do.
No, what I'm saying is that if they're coming from Solano Avenue and making a right turn, they would actually go on the opposite drive, on the opposite direction?
Yeah, I don't know how much I should say about Pear Street, but
Because
it
maybe if they have the visibility, they can actually do it, like if it's a broken line there, and then they can actually do it if it's on a straight line. But turning and not being able to see, it's kind of a dangerous situation too. So I don't know if,
so maybe it's
if I
less
would-
likely for someone to do that, maybe, yeah. I mean, they pass the bus where it is now. Cars pass it across the, I guess it is a broken line there.
it's broken
This is
line.
something
Yeah, what is it right now? I guess, yeah, they pass if they have the visibility.
Sorry. I have to talk in the microphone.
Thank you.
Well, could I jump in?
Please.
You know, looking at this in March, it seemed to me to be kind of a no-brainer. Like, it made sense to move the bus stop. The near bus stop seemed to make sense. But I think you and the woman made a compelling argument for me that the difference is between having it in front of an individual's home versus an apartment building, not to value one more than the other, but I do think if it impacts a single-family home, that should be considered. And I think as far as traffic going around the buses, I think they're going to go around no matter what if they're so inclined. I mean, I see people going around all the time, all over, and we can only mitigate what we can. We can't shake everybody and make them behave. Wait, excuse me, it's my turn. I'm supporting you. So I'm not sure that it's going to make that much difference if we do move it. So I would suggest that we leave it where it is, mainly for the reasons that you've said, that it's going to affect your quality of life, and that I think that's important.
So it sounds like the original reason that AC Transit requested this was because they want to have passengers safely exit and enter the bus.
Yeah.
And they say they can't do that with the current bus stop.
Well, also, as Stephen mentioned, is due to the fact that now they're going to be making a right turn from Buchanan directly instead of going through Buchanan Avenue and Cleveland and Solano and then left onto Pierce again.
So the
More straight shot. It's just
So because the route has changed, there's an opportunity to change the location of the
to
bus stop.
improve the operation, yeah.
To improve the operation and
operation.
safety of the bus stop. Okay. And what is it about the current spot again, that there isn't enough red zone?
Yeah, although here I have how many times the bus, it's basically once every 40 minutes during the weekdays from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. and once every 60 minutes, 10 times a day on the weekend. The Transbay trips are from 3:30 to 9:15 p.m. and that it's approximately 14 trips on weekdays, in addition to the 18 times per day that the Route 25 will stop there.
That's the number of buses.
So in terms of accessibility and in terms of bus volume, it's not a lot compared to other streets of Albany, like the commercial district and things like that. It's not going to be a bus shelter either, so it's.
Well, is there any further discussion? Does anybody want to put forward a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that we deny the request from AC Transit to relocate the bus, the 25 and Transbay bus stop from the near side of Washington and Pierce to the far side of Solano and Pierce.
I'll second it.
So we have a second. Shall we vote on it?
Yeah, ready?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. So that clears up this item. And we move on to the next item, and we invite...
Before we move on, do we need to direct staff to repaint the red? Both where the bus stop will now be and, I don't know, gray it over where the bus stop used to be? I mean, do you need that direction, or is that just a given?
We will, well, it's, actually, you can add it to the motion.
Like, I can't now.
However,
I'm not sure I agree with that.
however, we have to clarify that we're moving to paint 20 feet at every intersection for visibility of red. So we're going to paint, whenever we can, 20 feet of red curve at every intersection, on all directions from all the legs, for visibility.
Right.
And I think we're going to be moving, of actually just doing, because it's safer, instead of like having to have a public hearing of all the people, so it's going to be safer. And it's under the California Vehicle Code. It's, it says that no car should be parked 20 feet within the approach to the intersection for visibility reasons.
Right, I just want to make sure that whatever needed to happen, happened, and
I'm just clarifying here that it will be happening pretty soon, especially on piers.
So you will be pushing a parking space because it is hard because of that tree, a car has to be parked.
Because of visibility issues at all intersections. We don't want cars parked right at the crosswalk. We don't.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate that.
don't forget your jacket.
All right. So let's move on to item number 6.2, our Complete Streets draft report presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to give you a brief staff report, and then our consulting team is here to give you a more extensive presentation of the work that they've done most recently. Just to remind you of the history, beginning in 2012, or in 2012, I should say, the city received a grant from Caltrans to conduct a complete street study for the two of the major street corridors in Albany, Buchanan Street and San Pablo Avenue. We went through a selection process to select a design team to help us with the project. Our partner in the grant has been the Local Government Commission, which is a Sacramento-based nonprofit that specializes in these kinds of projects. Our consultant team includes Nelson Nygaard and our landscape architecture firm of WRT, and principals from those firms are here this evening. In December of 2012, we had an extensive community engagement process over a long week, including a series of meetings with stakeholders, design charrettes with the community, walking tours with the community, and so forth. Based on that outreach, the design team began a design process to translate the feedback they received from the community into various design alternatives. Those alternatives have been presented to you now on two earlier occasions, and with your feedback, they've been refined over time. In addition, I had the opportunity in May to give the City Council an update on the progress of the work that's been completed so far. For San Pablo Avenue, the challenge is that today there are no facilities for bicycles. So bicyclists are either riding in the lane of traffic or in many cases on the sidewalk. For pedestrians trying to cross San Pablo Avenue, there are a few good, safe alternatives, and so often there is either jaywalking or having to cross at crosswalks where there's no refuge in the middle of the street. And given the heavy traffic, that can be dangerous. For transit users, there are undersized and unattractive bus stops that are kind of squeezed into various locations, and the locations in some cases create traffic congestion, particularly at the San Pablo and Solano Avenue intersection. There are a wide variety of potential improvements that could be done to address these issues. The challenge is our right-of-way is narrow. It's narrower than the right-of-way for San Pablo Avenue in neighboring communities. And so there's a trade-off, and where we can, we try to squeeze in both bike lanes and medians, but in some cases there are compromises that impact parking. The Commission has discussed this. There's kind of talked about creating a transition zone where we do create a bike lane where we can, where parking capacity exists, but where necessary, we do use the share the lane kind of approach to a bike lane with a sharrow or a super sharrow, which would be the green stripe in the lane to make it very clear both to the cyclists where they should be and to the motorists where there might be a bicyclist. The Commission also talked about phasing the improvements and to really begin with signage and painted lane markings and where possible, and really monitor the effectiveness of the changes before making the major capital investments in construction of medians and so forth. For Buchanan Street, there was currently, as things stand today, there's nearly a half-mile stretch of roadway with only one pedestrian crossing. That's at Jackson Street. The project that's under construction, there'll be a second crossing at Pierce Street by the end of the summer. And one of the recommendations you'll be hearing about that's in the draft report is to add another crossing with a pedestrian-activated signal at the intersection of Buchanan and Taylor. At this point, I think if Michael is ready with the laptop, and it looks like he is, I'll turn it over to him to walk you through the draft report. What we're looking for this evening is feedback from you and the community on the features that are in the plan. The purpose of this plan is to be kind of a roadmap for pursuing individual projects over time. We'll use it to seek grant applications to further refine the design of the projects, to do environmental review, and ultimately to get grant funding to construct improvements. As you know from practice in the community, it's one project at a time, just kind of, we try to work on it over time. But having the overall vision document, it would be very helpful to us. So with that, unless you have any questions for me, just turn it over. Well, yeah, the schedule, what we're hoping to do is get your feedback today, refine the draft report, and bring it to the City Council this fall.
I want to add that there's a comment period that it's going to start, let's say, tonight to August 30th, and then we're going to see this the document again in September with the comments addressed. Hopefully that's the final draft, and then for your recommendation in September to one of the October meetings of the City Council.
Great. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, commissioners and members of the public. I'm glad to be back to present our final draft of this, really our first full draft of the document. And as you just heard, there will be a good comment period. There hasn't been a lot of time that anybody's had a chance to review or read this. If anybody's read the entire thing, congratulations to you in the few days it's been on the website. But that's okay. It's not needed that you have read the entire thing at this point. The general designs haven't changed significantly from what you saw last time. We changed what we discussed and then did the report around that. I'm going to very briefly walk through what's in the report, in part to help people sort of understand what's there, so that when you do go to read the whole thing, you'll understand. But typical intro stuff, table of contents and figures and all that. The first bit is, the first chapter is about the process and just talking about the background of the streets and what you all understand about your streets in the city. And we talk about that, talk about the schedule, the background here, what are the existing conditions on each of the two streets, showing photos of each of the streets. And then we talk about the process, the public design charrette. It's important for the public to understand the process and to have this be documented in this kind of report. This is something that these Caltrans planning grant projects, the Local Government Commission partners on. It's a very typical process for them, for their reports, and this one follows that, which is to let people know what happened so that there's an understanding of sort of how the designs came about. And so this chapter is actually very brief and just has a few example photos and some information about some of the values and general priorities. One of the example of the maps from the public workshops that came out, that people drew on those maps. And then it refers to the appendix, which has much more of the detail of what came out of that. So we don't try to, in the report itself, detail everything that came out of the public charrette or workshops, but we just refer to the appendix. And that's toward the end. And then we in this chapter, we also show a few sort of precedent images of other places that have done streetscape projects and the kinds of things that might make sense along these corridors. As you can see in these pictures here. And this is sort of our intro to the next chapter, which is our recommendations. This is the meat of the document, so to speak. I'll spend most of the time talking about this, and I'm going to jump from the document here to an overall plan view, the one that's on the wall back there, so that we can look at that and kind of scroll around to certain areas. We don't try to include a big map like that in the 8.5 by 11 report. So the way we've broken down the recommendations, I'll kind of step through this pretty quickly again. We talk about sort of what's corridor-wide recommendations, sort of the things that kind of, or themes that we think about throughout the corridor. And I'll just kind of go through some of those items here. Narrower lanes are something we talk about. Why is that? What are talk about some of the reasons that narrow lanes make sense, and other issues with respect to that. Intersection geometry issues. What is curb extensions? Why are those beneficial? How corner radii? How do those affect pedestrians and bicyclists and create complete streets? We also talk about, in some of these issues, we talk about Caltrans's restrictions and what they prefer, and AC Transit, some of their preferences and that sort of thing as well. We talk about signalized intersections and what are some of the things that make sense to change at signalized intersections to make a more complete street generally. Changing the signals so they're more automatic. We heard a lot about that during the public walk that we did, so that when you're walking through the city, you don't have to push a button to cross some streets. That was something that came up, and we talk about the benefits of that, and for bicyclists as well. And when we talk about what to do, what can be done at unsignalized intersections, San Pablo especially has several unsignalized intersections that have marked crosswalks without much besides 2 white lines across the road. And we heard a lot about that during the walk audit that we did with the public. And we mentioned several things in this general recommendation portion about what are some of the ways to solve that. You know these issues as the planning, the Traffic and Safety Commission, but it's important to include these in the report so everybody understands. And we talk about then here some of the examples behind me there of the things that can generally help at unsignalized pedestrian crossings, for example. And here's a few more of these graphics talking about lighting at crosswalks and all of those things. Another thing we talk about is gateways to the city. Again, this was a big emphasis during the charrette. And you can see that the map here is one that we drew during the charrette. John drew that, I believe, of some of the gateways to the city. And there's one to the west, too, of course, on Buchanan. And some examples of gateways in the upper right there of examples from other cities. And then we show, in this case, we're showing some of the visions for gateways in this overall recommendations portion here, and go into a little bit of detail on what those might be here. Some images showing the current picture on the top and the proposed gateway from a hand-drawn perspective here. And then showing in plan view where the gateways would occur, here at the north end near at El Cerrito's border, and then at the south end here at the Berkeley border. So there'll be 3 locations, one coming off the bridge, one at the north end, and one at the south end of San Pablo. Here's the design, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about the overall design for the corridor as well, but this shows just the gateway piece of the south end. And then a few other design elements that are important, thinking about some of the things like bike parking, transit facility improvements, the sidewalk zones. We talk about separating the sidewalk into the main pedestrian walking zone and the space where the furniture goes, and then the space near the buildings, and how that's important. And then we get into the overall, moving to the next piece of this chapter, the recommendations for each of the 2 streets, sort of more specifically then. Talk about San Pablo and the overall design for San Pablo. And some precedent images again of projects on similar streets and how streetscape can look elsewhere, or has looked elsewhere, and how that could be improved in Albany. A few more examples here, showing a median crossing, just an example of how that works. We'll show what we've designed for Albany in a moment. And so again, some general recommendations for San Pablo, talking about the existing widths and then showing the existing cross sections here. The drawing underneath is the full plan, half of it for San Pablo. It's not large in this case. We do zoom into certain areas later on, as you'll see in a little bit. And then we showed you this last time, this median study that shows how much median could be in place or not. So when we looked at the two options, let me go back for a moment. So we looked at option 1A and 1B. We just go through the different options that we considered and show those and how the medians were different in the moderate median versus minimum median solutions. And then we show examples of that in plan view, how that would look different. And then we talk about option 1 here, because really the median choice of how dense the median is applies not just to options 1A versus 1B, but also really for any of even the final option. You can, for option 3, which is really the option that's been moved forward, again, you can have longer or shorter segments of median. So that we talk about that before we get into the options. I realize we just made that change right before we published the document. So we talk about option 1, which was the option that included no bike lanes throughout the entire corridor. You've seen that. We talk about option 2, show the cross sections that you saw last time we were here, or the last 2 times we were here, and that then gets bike lanes throughout the entire corridor. And then we go into the option 3, which is the hybrid option that we generated based on your comments the first time we met with you, and talk about that. And then you can see the box here at lower left talks about how the recommended option is a variation of the option 3 that was originally proposed, and sort of what the details are of that. And we talk about some of the background, the bikeway network, the parking issues, these things that we presented to you last time. And this has been fleshed out a little bit. We've added some detail with respect to how the parking issues, and if you want to look more closely at this, we can, but essentially what this does is takes a look at the entire corridor, both sides. We did this a little bit at the last meeting, but since then what we've done is sort of, if we remove parking in the quantity of parking removal that we talked about for option 3 last time, how does the parking density increase in different parts of the corridor because of that? So if you have, currently 50% parking demand for the entire corridor, well, after you take out X number of spaces, you now have 60, 70% demand because there's less supply. So the demand hasn't changed, but the supply has. So the percentage of demand changes. And so this analyzes that per segment, so that this can be looked at in more closely with that. And a little bit of detail for each of the options. And I think this analyzes that for each of the options as well, as you can see here. And then a little more detail in text, how that works for each of the options also. And then we get into the specific recommendations. You've seen most of these recommendations. One of the things we were just talking about with Jeff Bond just before the meeting was the fact that the Green Streets, the spine project, may result in a necessary change to this design. For example, that there's in this area here, the mouse doesn't seem to be working, but turn it on first, usually helps. This area here, the curb line is proposed to be moved out to accommodate some of the Green Streets elements. So that may require some modifications of the design in the median here that we've shown in this example. Again, we just heard about that tonight. So, and so we walk through each location, San Pablo at Solano here, how that works. I want to point out that we are showing curb extensions on most of the corners, pretty much to the edge of where parking currently exists. We did show the bus bulbs. We showed the far side bus stop. That was something that was suggested by you all at the last meeting. The bus bulb outs you were lukewarm on, and we're showing them here, but in the discussion, the intention is to say that this is an optional thing that needs to go through a larger process to decide whether you're going to put bus bulb outs in this location, and really if the bus stops are going to be moved. That's a larger process, and we talked about that last time we met with you. And we can talk about this intersection in more detail if you want to come back to that. There's a bunch of text and discussion here, and I think we talked about this last time we were here, about sort of supporting the recommended signal timing changes at San Solano and San Pablo, which is an important piece from both a congestion point of view for motor vehicles, with the fact that northbound traffic is pretty congested in the afternoon peak, in part because of the way the signals are phased, what we call split phasing, and I think we discussed that last time. And also for pedestrians, they have to wait a long time to cross the street. And we've proposed changing the signal phasing, and this talks about that and just describing that in the text here. These are the actual pedestrian counts that support allowing pedestrians to automatically have a walk signal to cross even San Pablo, not just crossing the minor streets, but even crossing San Pablo, at least during most of the day when there's people out there, because it is a shopping street and there's a lot of people walking around in that area, because both San Pablo and Solano are active shopping streets. And then here's the analysis that you've seen before of the different scenarios of changes to the intersection signal, the signalized intersection there, the timing, and then also the travel lanes. We propose removing the eastbound and westbound right turn lanes, and this analysis shows how that would operate, and that's to get more parking in that intersection. So if I go back, the change here of moving the bus stop from, this is north, is to the left. Moving the bus stop from this side, near side, northbound, to far side would take out parking in this location, as I know has been discussed. I know people here are concerned about that. Would add parking back where the existing bus stop is. And we've also proposed then taking out the right turn lanes here and the sort of part-time right turn lane for eastbound traffic, and having this be parking all the time. You can see some parked cars here. So that replaces the parking that is lost. It's not in the same location, which is certainly an issue for some business owners, I'm sure. But whether or not there's a bus bulb out here, the bus stop being moved to the far side, of course, removes parking. In reality, though, you can you lose less parking by having a bulb out than by having the bus pull into the curb, because they have to get back out into traffic, and it takes some space to do that. So we talk about bus stops in general, not just the one at Solano, but also at other locations there. In this, mainly we talk about Solano, though, and the whole issue of why far side is better than near side. We discussed that last time in detail. I'm not going to repeat all that information here tonight. We can certainly dive into these issues and talk about that again if we'd like. We show the example at Washington Avenue, the bike boulevard treatment that we showed you last time that you liked, and that's in the document, of course. The unsignalized crossings of San Pablo, what are some of the solutions for that? We talk about the actual locations where those are, and where we recommend one location, I think it's Castro Street, we recommend moving the crosswalk from one side to the other to be where you can have this raised median, as shown in this example here, that provides a refuge. And I think we've got a plan view of that here. Yeah, these are plan views of a couple of mid-block crossing locations that are potential locations that we think make sense. Maybe not right away for some of them, especially the one where there's nothing here right now on this corner south of Marin. Although the grocery store is proposed to be built here. But these mid-block crossings are sort of looking, we talk about the reason why the crossings that are on each end of that are too far apart, and people are crossing the mid-block because they're further than the expectation of the user, and that's what the text here on this page discusses. And then moving over to Buchanan, again, we start with the overall design. We haven't presented much on Buchanan to you all, so I might spend a little more time with you on this. We talked mainly about the HOC signal and the pedestrian habited beacon crossing at either Taylor or, I forget the other street off the top of my head, Polk, right? And so this is, we have the overall design issues for Buchanan, and you can see here's the plan view. It's, again, the same one that's on the wall over there. Although actually this is changed. There's a couple of things that have changed on this. That little plaza right here, we'll look at that in a moment. The cross-section existing, the proposed, taking the existing, and it's under construction now, but we recommend a few additional changes to that. Adding the green shared lane treatment is one of those. You're putting in curb extensions that are partly built now. You've probably all seen that on the south side. We're recommending also adding them on the north side, which is not part of your current project. The other change here is that the joint on the bike lane on the north side is sort of right in the bike lane, and recommending that be fixed over the long term as well, so that you don't have the joint in the middle. We're suggesting moving it to between the bike lane and the travel lane. It could go on the other side too, but I think it's probably cheaper to do it that way. A few examples of some of the things that we're proposing on the corridor located in other locations, talking about entries into the residential neighborhood to the north off Buchanan, for example. We show this location here where this has now been reconstructed. This picture is no longer the existing condition. And it doesn't look quite like this, but the idea that this could become a plaza and enhanced a little bit more beyond what's been built out there today, something to think about. The crossing at Taylor and Buchanan, this is where we went through this, the first meeting we had with you, the idea of the pedestrian hybrid beacon, and this is that location. The crosswalk would be here. This would be the pedestrian hybrid beacon would be at this location. Talk about Buchanan and Jackson, adding the missing crossing was something that was requested and discussed by the citizens. One thing we just heard from Alita, there's some constraints with utilities and things that have to be worked through, but ultimately we do recommend that that be worked through and added there at the school. And then the intersection of San Pablo and Marin, talked about that, and what's already in motion to add the path on the south side. And then we discussed the things that the city's already planning to do, perhaps independently of a larger project along these corridors, to have a signal for bicyclists across here, independent of the right turn signal for motorists making that right turn onto San Pablo. This one you haven't seen. This is the intersection of Marin and Buchanan. This is something that has been, we didn't conceive this idea of relining this. Certainly we agree that it makes a lot of sense, and we drew this up in a fair amount of detail here of how Buchanan Street could be realigned to connect to Marin, and then Madison also gets realigned to be 90 degrees or closer to 90 degrees. Allows this space in the old Buchanan Street right-of-way to be a nice little plaza, and this is one way it could be done. A couple features that we tried to do was to maintain the pedestrian desire lines. For example, coming from the west, people might want to go towards City Hall this way and toward Marin, right? So we maintain that desire line with plaza space here, but also maintain this desire line here. We don't really want people to cross the street back here, so having this landscaping sort of encourages folks to come up to cross at the new intersection, right? And same thing with this way this is designed. And so there'd be opportunities for landscaping at the back here, at the front, creating a buffer from the street, and perhaps a space for landscaping in the middle because it is a larger plaza. This could all be designed in sort of more detail with how that plaza works. But this is just a conception of how it could be. I mean, this is a great addition to the project. It requires adjusting things a little bit. This left turn lane, for example, gets moved forward from where you turn now. It's back in here, right? So that's adjusted. This median gets trimmed a little bit. So that the few adjustments there, but generally this is an idea that's been conceived in the past and we think is a great plan, and we've shown how we think that could be best done. An example of some of the maps from the charrette itself is our sort of our lead into our implementation chapter. Those are 2 pages that will, in the fold-out document, you'd see these 2 pages side by side, right? So it doesn't seem like a page by itself. And so here we go into some of the implementation issues. What are some of the sources of funding for grants that are out there today? And how do you fund a project or projects to build all of this? And I'm not going to go into all the details here, but there are a number of them. And these have been used by a number of communities around the state, and all of these generally can be used to fund projects. There's a matrix here in the back that's blank at the moment because we want to meet with city staff and fill this in. This is sort of all those funding sources that I just looked at go across the top here. And then besides, there's 3 things across the top. You have the list of projects here. There's timing, short-term, mid-term, long-term, the different funding sources, both state, federal, and regional resources here, and the local resources, city resources here. And then these are the list of projects or the kinds of things that could be done in various ways. And so we're going to flesh this out for the next version of the document. It's just something that we we wanted to talk to the city about what their priorities are and try to get this fleshed out. So, but that's an anticipated piece of the document. I'm not going to go through the appendices. I think I've been through enough. This mainly has the results from the. It has details. It has the results from oh, I should mention this. There are sort of plan view drawings, page by page. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can see there are plan view drawings here, sort of design plans. They kind of look like final construction plans. They're not. They're conceptual plans, but they are more plan view drawings that take the illustrative plan views that we've had and make them a little more structured so that the typical engineers can take a look. And people can see more detail in these plans and sort of see how things fit in. And then beyond the plan view drawings, there are like I mentioned before, the details from the public workshops, all the information that came out, some of the lists of priorities and all of those things. There's detailed parking data that was collected is in here, I believe, and some of the count data, perhaps. I'm not sure. The count data we got from other documents, actually. We didn't do any counts for this project. I don't think we actually have any counts in here, but it's those kinds of details that are in the appendix. And that's what I have for the report itself. I do have this drawing that's on the wall back here in PDF form. I don't think there's anything that I need to show you specifically now, but we can scroll around this and look at specific areas if that's desired by the commissioners tonight. But this shows the entire plan. I can kind of zoom out and you'll see, but it shows, it's actually, I should probably turn it because it's showing north as being up, whereas we've always been, like the map in the back has north to the left. So this is San Pablo, and here's Buchanan. Well, tell us if you want us to turn that or not.
Well, does that map show a particular option?
Oh, this shows the option 3, the recommended option, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was that small box that talks about the details of option 3. You want to go over that just briefly?
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, it's no problem at all. Let me just get back to the document here. Easier to find the page over here. Let's just do that. Doesn't like my screen resolution. Still working, right? There it is, right there. So this is the details for option 3 are that we have, and this, I'm glad you asked. This came out of the meeting that we had last with you. Is bike lanes from the north city limit to Clay Street, at which time bicyclists have the option either in both Brighton and Clay to diverge off to side streets if they'd like, instead of taking the shared lane marking south from there. So then from Clay south to Buchanan here, which by the way, this part is shown, is the shared lane marking. I can zoom into that a little bit. And so the shared lane marking from here all the way back up to Clay, and then starting here at Buchanan, bike lane in the southbound direction only, with the shared lane marking northbound. This was the one major recommendation that you all had to change the option that we brought to you the last time we met. We presented to you, and then south of Marin is bike lanes on both sides, all the way south to the south city limits. That's the general details for option 3 for San Pablo, and the things like the changes to the unsignalized crosswalks in Solano and San Pablo. Those are sort of independent of which option is chosen, but that's the big picture options really are that. And this, you can see, the text pretty much matches what I just said. I think I didn't mention that south of Dartmouth, it doesn't quite go to, the bike lanes don't quite go to the city limit. They go to Dartmouth to pick up the bike boulevard and the path, future path and future bike boulevard. Bike boulevard on Dartmouth and a path on Cordonices Creek to the west. And then south of Dartmouth is shared lane markings, or perhaps, since it's only a short distance, you don't even bother with that unless Berkeley's going to add shared lane markings as well.
Thanks.
Is that enough?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I should have been a little more clear about what's in that recommended option that came out of our, it's been a little while, it's been 2 months, right, so.
Michael, could you please repeat Buchanan to Marin?
Yes, so Buchanan to Marin, as you can see here, parking on both sides, bike lanes southbound, shared lane marking northbound.
Thank you.
And the idea behind that is that, for example, if bicyclists are using, I always mix up Canes or Adams, which one's on which side, I always forget, but what's the one on the west side? It's Adams, thank you. If bicyclists are using Adams and they want to continue south on San Pablo, they can jog over on Buchanan here and then use that bike lane to go south. Generally recognizing that it's a lot easier to make right turns than left turns off of a major street or onto a major street. So the idea is that and one of the things we talk about in here is that we recommend that the Canes and Adams bike boulevard options that you've looked at in the past be re-looked at, and I think the city is moving forward with looking at that again. And that then allows bicyclists who aren't comfortable riding in the shared lane on Buchanan, on San Pablo between Buchanan and Clay, can then, as those bike lanes end, bike lanes always end at a point where bicyclists can easily make a right turn off of the San Pablo and immediately make the next left turn onto Canes or Adams. And then as they get to the end of where those streets go through, they can make a left turn back onto whatever street, like Brighton, for example, or in this case, Buchanan for southbound, and then make a right turn back onto San Pablo where there's, again, a bike lane right there. It picks up where that first opportunity where they would have that. So that was, again, the idea behind where the bike lanes start and stop. And this was the one that you all recommended specifically to add that southbound bike lane, which makes a lot of sense given what I just said. So.
It's a lot of information to take in.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you'll have, like I said, everyone has a month or so to review the drawings or the document, and then we'll make changes after that and we'll come back.
And I assume we'll have a copy of this document at the front desk here at the City Hall?
Sure.
A colored copy?
Yeah, John stole it,
Great.
but it's right here. Yeah, I know, just kidding.
Oh, great.
You borrowed one
Great.
to look at for a moment.
Are there any commissioner questions? I think we're going to turn it over to public comment. How many people here are here to comment on this agenda item this evening? Okay, great. Love that you're here, ready here to get your input. We do ask that you fill in the little card so we can get your names correct. It's probably best if you would form a line over here. And I understand you may have questions. Because of the number of people, I'd like to cut down the back and forth in time, so we'll probably save those questions until after the public comment period and have Michael respond to them at that time.
It's fine. And I'll be glad if people want, I can move this to a certain location.
Maybe you want to come over here.
You want me to do that and bring this over
Yeah.
there and then do that? Okay, sounds good.
I think most of the people referring specifically to the Solano, San Pablo corner, so maybe we could have that part of the plan up. Maybe most of us are addressing that. It would be good to have that.
That sounds good.
You to do.
I hear some voice telling me that over here somewhere.
You want to talk?
Yeah, that's not mine. This one's not mine.
So we'll give each of you 3 minutes, and we do ask that you talk into the mic. There are people watching online and on the cable channel, and we do record it for the minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chris Cole, C-O-L-E. I am an attorney. My office is in San Francisco, but I am here today representing both the owner of the property at San Pablo and Solano, Leonard Rousseau, who is here, and also I'm speaking on behalf of many of the tenants of that building. Many of them are here and will speak for themselves, but I want the Commission to be aware that I'm also speaking for them. When I say we, the landlord many of these tenants are quite long-term, and we work closely with them. You are right that this is a lot of information to take in. We're just going to be focusing on one small part of this, which is the intersection at San Pablo and Solano. I noticed Mr. Nygaard made one comment that taking parking away from the northeast side would add parking to the other side. That may well be true, but that doesn't do anything to help any of the tenants on the northeast side. We have 4 tenants who are dependent on parking in front of their building. And when I say parking, I'm not talking about 90-minute parking, I'm talking about 20-minute parking. We have Max's Liquors that has been in Albany for 20 or more years at the corner. Right next to them, we have a futon shop that's owned by a young man and his wife, sole proprietors, the 2 of them. We have next to them Avalon Glass, which is also owned by 2 people. And next to them, we have Crazy Copy, which is a copying and graphics place that is also owned by 1 gentleman. The one on the other side is going to be a dental office. They are not so dependent on the 20-minute parking. I have brought with me 5 of many pictures taken by the owner of Max's Liquors that shows the use of this 20-minute parking by vendors who come in every day to Max's, and also it shows the amount of materials that are delivered to Max's on a regular basis. And if I could maybe pass these on, there are actually only 4 of these pictures. At one point there were 5. This shows that these businesses are dependent on having materials delivered to them from Max's, and for the Crazy Copy, futon, and the glass, yes, they have some materials delivered to them, but mostly it's customers who buy things and need to have those things brought out to the front. It is not possible, is not physically possible to move a 7-foot piece of glass outside of Avalon Glass and then take it across the street where this additional parking is. The same thing, it's not possible to take a futon out and walk it across the street. These people will simply lose their livelihood without 20-minute parking. They're here, they'll speak for themselves, but I want that to be clear that that's what we hear about is the small business that has existed in this city for a long time. There is a parking lot across the street where the bus stop is now. There is none on our side. I see my time's expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sangeeta Garcha, and I'm one of the owners of Max's Liquors. I have been here before in all the previous meetings, and today I want to repeat the same, points that are important to me. So the first one, like I said, the 20-minute parking is like all the parking basically that I have for my business, for my customer to use. Customers always complain to us because you guys know like how limited the parking is on San Pablo as it is. So, that parking, I just cannot emphasize how important that is for my business, especially for the customers that are like disabled and they use that parking. They appreciate that. And then we also get deliveries from Monday through Friday. And like I said before, those trucks are like 18-wheelers. They are not small trucks that can just fit in any spot. And so we do get like pallets of merchandise that's delivered to us. And the other thing is, like, I want to bring this to your attention that when you're talking about the safety, I'm not very good with the directions, but I'll try to explain. The bus stop is right now on the other side of the street. So right now when the bus stops there, it's dealing with traffic only that's coming behind it. If you put the bus stop right in front of Max's Liquors, it will have to deal with the traffic coming from 3 sides, okay? There's a traffic coming from this side of Solano, there's traffic coming from this side of Solano, and then there's gonna be traffic coming down San Pablo. And I see kids standing, right there, so I don't know how that is, safety-wise, I don't see how that is gonna do any good to anybody. The people who are coming down from San Pablo, we are there 17 hours a day. We see how things go around there. They make such wide turns. I mean, even when the bulb out is not there and the bus is not stopping there right now, they make such wide turns that they almost hit the cars that are parked there. So if you put a bulb out and you have a bus standing right there, I don't know safety-wise how that's gonna do any good to anybody. I mean, you just have to be there to see this. I'm telling you, we see this every single day. So like, I can only request to you guys that, that parking for us is the life of our business, and we cannot afford to lose that parking. And I would really appreciate that if you just leave the bus stop, where it is. And the second thing that I recommended last time was that if you must move the bus stop, go ahead, put it, by where the mechanics bank is, because they have their own parking lot in the back. And it's also near an intersection, then that's like a win-win situation for everybody. Because if you put the parking in front of me, that's gonna decrease the resale value of my business. If there's no parking, nobody's gonna buy the business. And when you say there's like a 90-minute parking, that doesn't do me any good, because that parking is always already full, With that 20-minute parking in front of me, we are able to keep an eye on that parking because it is in front of us. And we try to call, the parking enforcement and the police officers when people leave their cars in there for more than 20 minutes. If you move that parking further down, nobody has time to stand outside and, watch like whose car's been parked there for more than 20 minutes or not. So I really appreciate for your time, but please do take these, points in consideration. Thank you very much.
Again, Stephen Newhouse, AC Transit. I want to take this time to say that I appreciate the time of city staff, of this body, of the consultant team, of the fellow stakeholders in coming up with this plan. I think we came up with a lot of really good recommendations. I want to speak briefly on 2 points. First is this issue of signal timing and bus stop relocation. This is critical to improving the operations of the bus. San Pablo Avenue does operate as a major trunk line for us. If you look at the passengers on the buses that go through this area specifically, there's 4,100 people that are on the bus that are impacted by delays from the signals or by the bus stop relocation. And unfortunately, I guess none of them are here to speak today, but 4,100 that would be directly impacted. And then
That's per day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then there are 15,300 passengers that rely on these buses somewhere along the route, so maybe not in Albany, but elsewhere. And so anything that impacts the on-time performance, the speed of these buses directly impacts them as well. Now, a fellow staffer and I did go out and take measurements and look at this bus stop in the northbound direction. More often than not, the bus is stopped at the light, and the majority of buses are delayed 1 minute and 15 seconds up to 2 minutes. So this does have a significant impact on the bus operations. The second point I want to make, and I want to make sure I compartmentalize this comment because overall I'm very happy with this plan. We are concerned about the use of bicycle treatments like Sharrows on the impact of bus operations. To go from sharing the lane with a vehicle, a car that's driving maybe 25 or 35 miles per hour, to then sharing the lane with a cyclist who maybe is going 10 or 12 miles per hour. That does have an impact on the bus operations. I would encourage you to look at alternatives that either keep cyclists in a dedicated facility, very strongly encourage them to use parallel routes, or make other mitigations. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wendy Wilson, and I'm one of the owners of Avalon Glassworks. We're really uncomfortable with having a bus stop right in front of our shop. We do glass work, so we're bringing in windows, sheets of glass. We're licensed glaziers, so we're moving equipment in and out of the shop all the time, and to have a bus stop right in front of the shop, trying to move large sheets of glass, people standing at the bus stop, things like that, really uncomfortable, and it'll have a big impact on our business. We work really hard, but to have people there all day long waiting for buses, and we can't load our equipment in and out. We've got clients. I had a client last week bring in a door, a full-size door, into the shop. He had a bad back, so I was able to give him a hand, but he's not going to want to bring that down the street. Having the bus stop there is going to be a big problem for us. So I really hope that you consider that, you know, and it's not just us, but it's the futon shop and people who are buying furniture, as well as Max's Liquors, who have people who stop, get their stuff, go on, stop, get their stuff, go on. If they can't do that easily, they won't do it. So all three businesses, plus the coffee shop next door, are going to be really impacted by this, and we're just trying to make a living. So I hope you guys will consider that. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is James Silva. Wendy's my partner at Avalon Glassworks. Obviously, I have two main concerns. One is the impact on our business, and it's not just our business or the liquor store or the futon shop. It's also the restaurants down the street. All the to-go orders, all the people who call in their orders, they stop in the 20-minute zone, walk 3 doors down, pick up their food, and go. That 20-minute zone, those 3 parking spots, are utilized by all the businesses. It's a vital part of the business environment. It's part of what got us to invest in that location. I think it should be fairly obvious that moving the bus stop will have a huge impact on those immediate businesses. In addition to the detrimental effect on our business, I think there's a need for a real basic look at this. By moving the bus stop with the bulb out, what you're doing is you're turning San Pablo into a one-lane road. If you think that traffic backs up with the bus stop before the intersection, where do you have a couple of buses stacked up waiting to load there at a bottleneck? No traffic turning right, no traffic turning left, no traffic coming down San Pablo. I was glad to hear that you were talking about the signal timings, but as of right now, the lights are set up so that the pedestrians walking on that crosswalk, on the north crosswalk, they actually cross at the same time the westbound traffic on San Pablo has a green light. You cross against the green light at that intersection. So you're setting up a situation where the cars coming down Solano will get a green light just as pedestrians from the west side of San Pablo get a crosswalk signal. They'll be running to catch the bus. You've got traffic trying to take a right around a bus. You've got everyone squeezing into this one location. It's not going to alleviate traffic. The AC Transit's concerns about improved efficiency. If you think the stoplight's bad, where do you get 5 different cars trying to get through an intersection? And then you get that sort of bleed through where people take the left and they're sitting in the You're going to back up traffic all up Solano and San Pablo. San Pablo's not going to be able to go anywhere. It's not going to improve anything. So you're really not alleviating anything. You're making things worse. So negative impact on the local businesses, and you're really not improving the traffic or the safety. Moving that bus stop is a really bad idea. The rest of the plan, thank you. You guys have done a lot of work, and I appreciate that. This is a fundamental problem. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erica Lockhart. I'm a simple citizen of Albany, and I work really long hours, and I've always appreciated the fact that I could stop in at Max's, pull in, and grab that half and half that I forgot and I want for my morning coffee. Sometimes I'm working 12 and 14 hours a day, and it's really wonderful to have that there. It's not like I couldn't walk across the street or something else, but one of my reasons for wanting to keep that there also is the fact that I think about Max's. They've been some of the friendliest people to me since I moved to Albany. And I think about the fact that when I used to live in San Francisco, they moved a bus stop in front of my house. It exponentially increased the amount of trash and noise and disturbance in front of my house. It had fights, police responses, people sitting on my front doorstep. So that kind of changes the character of the business also, to have to kind of navigate through that kind of a scene, if you will, in front of a business. And while I'm not sure that would happen, it does seem to be a possibility. I've also noticed, too, that they do have unloading and loading when I'm there, but it's almost always free parking space there within the 20-minute limit. Very rarely have I ever found a problem finding a parking space. It's very convenient, and I also do frequent some of the restaurants in the neighborhood. So I do hope that you'll take into serious consideration these things when making a decision about moving the bus stop. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank you for showing this and what is democracy. I've never been to a meeting like this. I never addressed anything. I never spoken to any group like this. And I come in support of I'm Ramon Padilla from Four Corners Cafe. And I work long hours. And we decided to open this little coffee shop because we have a dream that one day we'll have a better life. I was fortunate to have a good job, but I think that I was hoping to do better. And from what I heard from them, they're really afraid that it's going to really impact their business. I work 80 hours a week, and I see James, I don't know her name, but I see the Max's liquor store, and they work every single day. The same thing with James, the same thing with Wendy, with the coffee place, and I feel like it's going to really affect that. One of the issues, in addition to that, one of the issues that I deal with at the Four Corners Cafe, which is the opposite corner, is a nuisance that comes from homeless people or people drinking just on the street. Often they refuse to just not abide by common sense. So that's one of the things that it's going to affect. But my main concern is that it's going to affect them. I know they work really, 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 really hard. And I ask you to really keep that into consideration, and I want to thank you for all that you do.
Good evening. My name is Vikas Garcha. I am one of the co-owners of Max's Liquors. Just again, you heard about a lot of people saying, how important the parking is from situation point from us. We started collecting this petition from our customers and asked them to support us against this bus stop moving it. So you guys can look at these signatures. These are more than 600 signatures collected in 2 months from our customers, and there are 25 to 30 signatures, which is a separate list from our vendors, distributors, that how important this parking is for us. And I'm also representing the next door business, Sugata Restaurant, and they have given me these letters that they can come to this meeting, and I can speak on behalf of them. And I'll just hand over these two. So we are the new owners at Max's. We acquired this business from our parents last year, and we invested all our life saving in this business last year. And we still have a big loan on our shoulders. We need to pay this off, and we cannot afford, any hiccups or anything, and just because that comes in our we can't afford our sale drops, and we have lot of things to repay. We have 3 kids, big family, working long hours. You heard it from other people also, and you can take a look at these signatures from our customers. So another thing is that having a bus stop right in front of the business, which is going to impact the resale value of our business. Even if we have to sell in the future, people will think that that's going to impact the resale value of our, and that's also going to impact the quality of life we have, because people are going to be standing there all the time, and it's a liquor store. People are going to start drinking. Even if somebody tries to open a can of beer in our liquor store, we tell them that, hey, you can't do this. This is not legal. So we try to stop our, even if somebody is too drunk, we don't even sell to them, because we just make sure that, nothing like this happens. That's all I want to say, that just consider these things, before planning anything. We appreciate the plan you guys have put together. The only thing we just don't like about the bus stop relocation. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edwin Kainth, and I was also one of the previous owner of the Max's Liquor. I owned that place since 1990 through 98, and this voice I've been hearing since last 23 years. Because before, city was also trying to do the same thing, changing the bus stop from the other location to in front of the Max Liquors. So on that time, we also raised a voice against that. So it's a good idea, city is doing the remodernization of the area, and including the San Pablo, but I'm only against that it will kill the small business, because they're the hardworking people. They generate the tax dollar for the city. So if the bus stand will be there, then there will be no customer. The value of the business will be dead, because that depend on the traffic and the parking in front of the store. Since they have very, very limited parking, so I will strongly encourage you, so please think about it. Do not move the parking from that location to in front of the store. So that will be my suggestion, because I've been seeing that happening since last 23 years. It did not happen yet, so I'm hoping it should not happen again. That will be the good interest for the ownership and for the community. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Hello, my name is Preston Jordan. Thank you for taking up this issue, and thank you for the design work that was done. I'm very encouraged by the plan that was put forward. And just to clarify, I'm speaking for myself tonight, because I'm often identified as speaking for Albany Strollers and Rollers, which doesn't have a position on the issue of the bus stop. I'm kind of dismayed with myself that I didn't speak at the last item, because it didn't occur to me that a Traffic and Safety Commission wouldn't prioritize safety. And the issue with the far side bus stops versus near side bus stops is that in a near side bus stop, the pedestrians are stepping out, using the crosswalk in front of the bus is blocking visibility. You heard from the previous people that were here, the motorists are gonna fly around that bus no matter what. And so having the pedestrians crossing in a less visible place in front of the bus, where motorists are gonna be flying around, maintains that lack of safety. And you also prioritized a homeowner over the people who live in the apartment who weren't here to speak. I appreciate that AC Transit's representative is here tonight to say, this affects 15,000 people that use the bus line. Albany does have a transit-first policy. I don't often hear that cited or quoted, but it does have a transit-first policy. Now, these are obviously extraordinarily difficult issues. I don't know what the solution is. I would encourage you to take more time to try and find a solution rather than making the decision tonight. I mean, there are solutions in other cities, I imagine, that have been implemented for small businesses and bus stops. I don't know if the 30-minute parking could be moved down as a compromise. Also, I would think that those patrons who are waiting for a bus would represent a potential client base that is less likely to cross the street from the other side now because they're waiting for the bus. But if they're standing there for 5 minutes waiting the bus, they might be willing to go into a business that they wouldn't otherwise. Also, I want to harken back to the consultant did an analysis of if the bus is stopped at a bulb out on that side, what would the impact on traffic be, motorist traffic? And the consultant's conclusion was that it would be roughly the same as it is now, because the buses tend to stop and block that lane of traffic of San Pablo anyway, because they don't pull all the way off the street. So with a far side bus stop with the bus bulb out means they don't need to take as long to pull off and pull back on. So they're stopped for a shorter period. They're stopped a lot of times when the light turns red behind them anyway. So it's kind of a wash in terms of San Pablo operation. So given that, I would hope that you would take the time to work with the business owners to try to find a solution that, like I say, is maybe moving the 30-minute parking forward, but not deprioritize our transit first policy as I think you just did with the previous decision. Thank you.
Are we still trying to talk just about the bus stop, or is this a good time for more general comments?
You're welcome to make more general comments about the plan.
Okay. I'm Harry Chomsky. I'm speaking for Albany Strollers and Rollers, and I want to thank the commission and the city and everybody for doing such a great job with this project. We support the bulk of the plan, and the compromise that was made about bike lanes versus sharrows, I think, was a difficult decision, and we support the final outcome as a good compromise. I wanted to speak to the AC Transit representative's concern about buses and bicycles sharing the traffic lane, and I agree with him that that's not a great situation to have big, heavy buses and slow-moving bicycles trying to occupy the same space. It's actually the situation that exists today. When there's no bicycle treatment on San Pablo, the law says that bicycles should be riding in the traffic lane in a space far enough out from the car doors that they can ride safely, and therefore they will be in the same area that a bus would be in, trying to use that part of the lane. So I don't think adding the sharrow will exacerbate that problem. If anything, it clarifies who should be where, and I would hope would make the bicyclists safer by keeping them on a more straight line and not having them zigzagging in and out so much. So ideally, if we could have bike lanes everywhere, I think it would be better for bikes and for buses, and on that I agree with Mr. Newhouse. But as far as, since we can't have the bike lane, I would say adding the sharrow seems like a benefit for everybody, and I don't see it as a drawback for the buses compared to what we have now. I wanted to speak to one other issue, which is in a specific location on the south side of Buchanan Street at the Jackson Street intersection. The new bike path is partially in operation there, and one of our members was riding eastbound on that path, and a bus was driving eastbound along the same area, approaching Jackson Street. The bus was turning right onto Jackson Street and did not see the bicyclist approaching the green light because the bicyclist was a little bit farther south. And it seems that having that green light apply to bicyclists crossing in the crosswalk and buses turning right from the street creates a conflict with limited visibility, and we're wondering if somehow the plan could be amended to recommend a treatment there, maybe a bike-only phase for the signal so that bikes could safely cross when motor traffic is not trying to turn right there. I hope something can be added to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, my name is Winky Campbell-Notar, and I'm here to represent the Albany Chamber of Commerce and support our businesses and their concerns for safety and customers. I want to thank the people who sat on the commission, on the committees working at this, and the city staff and the consultants. Everybody worked extraordinarily hard to solve a lot of conflicting issues of pedestrians, bicyclists, businesses, motorists, and public transport. And it's a very complex puzzle. I think that we need to pay more attention to the intersection of Solano and San Pablo. It's the hub of our commercial district. In another lifetime, a long time ago, I worked for a city council member in Oakland, and we successfully moved a number of bus stops from in front of liquor stores to other places just because of the social distortions that it caused, with people waiting for bus stops in front of liquor stores and getting on buses with liquor in their hand and hanging out. So there's some other issues there besides transit and traffic. And also, as was pointed out, I think, by Strollers and Rollers at one point, who, by the way, are a member of our chamber, and we're happy to have community groups like that. Coming around the bulb out, if you're traveling west on Solano and trying to make a right turn on a bicycle is not a very safe situation. So everyone's been very, to this point, very willing to work out some of these tough issues, and I'm sure that we can come to solutions that will satisfy most people and help with both public safety and make it a more pedestrian-friendly street, which is one of the points of Complete Streets, and more business-friendly, which is in our strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further public comment, I'll bring it back to the commission. I don't think I heard any questions that we need to follow up on. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Only if you think there's something that you'd like some clarification on or response to anything you heard. I'm willing to try to answer anything, but we'll stay for the duration anyway.
Thank you. So this would be a chance for commissioner comments. Who would like to get us started off?
Okay, I'll start.
Thank you.
I think what Preston said really kind of resonated with me, because I think this is a really difficult situation. I think the bus stop where it is right now doesn't work. It backs the traffic up. It just doesn't seem to work. But it's not a simple solution just to say, let's just move it across the street and walk away. So I think we may need to take a little bit more time and think a little bit more about the best way to do this. And, you know, I'm wondering, just to throw out some really random ideas, would it be possible to put in a loading zone for the delivery trucks, either in front of the bus stop or maybe one of the spaces on Solano where we're taking out the right turn lane on that corner? I don't know. I'm guessing. What about moving the green spaces in front of the bus stop? It's not right in front of your business, but it's relatively close. And unless somebody comes up with a really good solution tonight, I'm more willing to give this some more thought. I think you're making valid points. I think we do want to support you, and we just need to figure out the best way to do that.
Any comments on the rest of the plan?
Can I come back? Can I come back to it?
Sure.
I'll comment that I pretty much like most of the rest of the plan. We've reviewed a lot of that, and I think, you know, this has implemented the suggestions we've made, so I'm pretty happy with that. On the Solano intersection, you know, I kind of agree with what Peggy said here, to the extent that, you know, we've heard the business concerns, and I think we understand them. If that's all there was to it, it'd be very simple. Well, you know, don't move the bus stop. Clearly, it's undesired. It has an impact, but it's not simple, because, you know, we've got 15,000 transit passengers delayed by a minute each. So there's 15,000 minutes of wasted time a day, depending on, you know, the pedestrian safety issue is not trivial by any means. You know, I can certainly think of pedestrian fatalities that have happened where someone stepped out from behind even a car, let alone a bus, and was struck. So we're not dealing with easy things on one hand or the other. You know, the livelihood of the businesses is important to us. We don't want to lose the businesses. We don't want them to suffer. We also want to make sure that everyone's safe. And the concerns we've been hearing from neighborhoods, you know, not just people at this corner, but, you know, that neighborhoods adjacent to Buchanan, that they get traffic that doesn't want to get stuck on San Pablo, so they're cutting through the hillside neighborhoods, and so we've got traffic calming requests with speed humps being installed. There's this is a big issue, what's going on at this intersection. So I think refining the signal timing to make that work better and try to get San Pablo to flow better, that aspect of this seems very clear-cut, that we should be doing that, because the consequences of the congestion northbound San Pablo are far-reaching. It's not just people waiting at that intersection, it's people refusing to wait at that intersection and going through other places, driving unsafely because they're in a hurry. So that piece, I think, is straightforward. As Peggy said, it really bears looking at this, not making a snap decision. Whether or not we include it in the plan tonight doesn't mean it's a done deal one way or the other. The concept of, do we need a loading zone? We probably do. The trucks having to stop in the green zone to unload now is not optimal, because now where do the customers park while that's happening? A couple of the pictures showed trucks stopping in the traffic lane on San Pablo, which is not great. I understand that happens. We could put a yellow zone on Solano where the right turn lane is. We could put more green spaces there. If a bus stop goes in north of Solano, almost certainly we'd want to have at least as many green spaces as there are today. I appreciate the sense that the liquor store can sort of help to enforce the green zones if they're right out front. But I think kind of where I end up on this is, I agree. We don't have a decision to make on that issue tonight because it's not a simple one. It's not a planning level type of decision, in the context that a lot of this is, these are concept drawings. We're going to be looking for grant funding to complete designs really down to the fine details and draw up construction plans and take things out to bid at some point, piece by piece. This is a tough one, because you can think of it as, well, we've got a transit first policy, let's make a transit first decision, but there are so many implications to it that I kind of want to separate it out from the rest of this process. I don't want it to hold up the rest of the Complete Streets process. It shouldn't. It came up because it's part of the intersection. We wanted to try to figure out what made the most sense. It's not the first time it's come up. We already moved the southbound bus stop. The northbound bus stop was more challenging, and at the time we kind of punted that decision. But it remains. The problem remains. It hasn't been resolved. So I'm kind of starting to ramble here, but I really think we need to push off the decision on this one, but take a closer look at it, because it really is something where talking to the business owners and understanding exactly what their needs are, what works now, what doesn't work now, not just do we get a bus stop and a bulb out, because we're already so on the bulb out, whether or not the bus stop moves. I understand the pros and cons of it, and I'm still not convinced one way or the other, but I think this can become quite a substantial conversation all unto itself.
Well, first, I want to say I've been fascinated with the whole process of what we've gone through for Complete Streets. I think it's a really impressive plan. I'm very delighted with what's happening on Buchanan. Being a person that lives on Pierce Street and having a lot of struggle to get across Buchanan for work and school and et cetera. I think the Buchanan part, we don't talk about that much, but I'm really delighted with it. I think the whole idea of Complete Streets through my participation in this process is trying to balance out all the needs between pedestrians, bicyclists, people in cars, and kind of my feeling about Albany is we have this precious small town in the middle of huge cities that's moving way too fast. And we need this program to slow us all down, get us in check, hopefully bring more business to the city. But to do that, I think we need to really pay attention to how the streets laid out, and I think we need to give a lot of thought to businesses, but I also think we need to give thought to how everything moves together. And I think there's a serious issue with this intersection, and traffic engineers are telling us there's a serious issue with this intersection. I think there's some room for the business owners and the traffic to really, and the engineers and us, to really look at this and try to come up with some kind of livable plan. What I'm hoping to see once we get funding for this process is that people want to walk and be in this area. That a business isn't going to have to rely on a 20-minute parking spot. They're going to be part of a community that's more bound together, and walking people and biking people will go to your shops, not just people in the car. So I totally think there should, it looks like is there 2 or 3 green parking spots there? It's a couple. I definitely think we shouldn't lose those, but move them. But I don't know that we have to decide that tonight. It doesn't seem like we do. I think what is important for us to do is to make sure that this plan, kind of in an overall concept, is endorsed by many elements of the city, which, if you look in the back, all the people that have had input over the last few months, I think there's a lot of people talking about this, and I think it's really important to bring up the parts of it that are concerning, and if this is the most concern, I think we're doing a really good job, because I think we can put some brain power to this and figure it out, I hope. Maybe not everybody will be 100% happy, but I think we're on the right path to handle these 2 main arteries and to kind of send a signal to the whole area that this is a town that we want people to come and shop and live and spend time in, and we have an opportunity to do that. But I don't really want to make the decision on this one little piece, big piece, important piece, right now. I don't know that I'm asked to do that.
I don't think we are asked to do that, but this is a time for general input on the plan.
Right.
Peggy, you said you had some other comments on the plan?
Yeah, I think, the plan has been responsive to things that we've asked. I think it looks good. I think, this is the one piece that we're going to need to wrestle with a little bit more. I do have a question that it kind of occurred to me while I guess somebody else was talking. Earlier, a couple of meetings ago, I asked if public safety had weighed in on the plan, and you said not yet. Have they yet?
We haven't met with public safety on this. I think that my understanding is that they would be asked to review this document at this point, along with everyone else.
With the public comment.
There really hasn't been, since we last met with you, it's been more of production, getting the document out, as opposed to having any changes. And so that certainly should happen. Honestly, it's something that I think the city intends to do.
Okay. Yeah, the review is part of this public, the comment process that we're going to have.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all.
All right. Well, I'm also really excited about the plan overall. I think a lot of work has come to fruition, and there's some good compromises in terms of all the users of the street. I don't think we've come to a point where we can make a decision one way or the other about the bus stop moving. I feel pretty strongly that we do have a transit first policy. but it's hard to make these decisions. And I guess I'd be interested in seeing some additional options, or if there are any. Certainly, we can't be the first community that's come up against these issues. I know that not everybody had a chance to see the photos that were handed around. I found it interesting that in one of them, the delivery vehicle was actually parked in the travel lane. The rest of the pictures were delivery trucks in the loading zone, or the temporary parking.
Would you like to know why that was?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to know why that was, or I don't want to interrupt, but I'll tell you why.
Sure, let's put the poster up if you'd like to step up and explain that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chris Cole again. The reason that delivery truck was parked in the street is because the 90-minute parking was all taken up, and there wasn't enough room for that truck and its rear assembly to fit into the green spaces. They
So
normally pull into the green spaces if at all possible.
If they can, yeah. So there's even a lack of space currently for delivery trucks, as I think Fareed pointed out. So I guess the question is, we're just taking input this evening, and you're looking for some direction from us, or just some comments from us, not direction. Okay. But there's been some talk of whether it makes sense to separate this issue from the larger project. And I think we all feel pretty strongly that we want to see this project go forward.
Yes, well, there is also, if you remember that the ATP, when the ATP was being processed, we pulled Keynes and Adams and actually moved the rest of the project. So we can do something like that here. That's basically an idea.
I think we have no problem with that as the consultant. I think that we can, I've already taken a note that we should add, we already say something about Traffic and Safety Commission and Caltrans approval for the issues around the bus stop. But I think we can flesh that out a little bit and even be more specific about that. I think we do want to show something as far as in the graphics. And so we can show what we're showing now and make it clear that no final decision has been made about moving the bus stop in the document. Or if you'd like, I think the only thing we would ask from you right now would be just direction on what to show. Either way, we'll mention that a decision about moving the bus stop hasn't been made and will be made as part of a separate process. But if you'd like us to show something different than what we're showing now, then we can do that. As far as what we show, not what we say, but what we show, I think we're going to say the same thing regardless.
I'm fine with the concept of showing, bus stop with a bulb out if we sort of draw a cloud around it and say this is for further conceptual analysis. That at least makes it clear what one, potential outcome is at one level of extreme versus the other level of extreme being leave it as it is. But I think rather than put it in there and just say, well, it's not yet approved, it's conceptual, I think it deserves a little bit more highlighting that it's, a concept for consideration, that as Michael said, it's not been approved, but I think that needs to be very clear.
Similar to the note that we have on top, at the beginning of the description of Keynes and Adams on the ATP. It was clear that these two projects need further study. So that's basically what it says. And the environmental work actually respected that. I mean, in this case, we're not going to do environmental right now, but because there are two corridors that might be implemented in segments, and it's a different approach that we're taking. With that, Commissioner Mickey sent an email, and I would like to read it as part of a comment, or
That sounds good.
So, Commissioner John Mickey says, comment on Comple Streets draft. Were far side bulb outs considered for San Pablo at Garfield, Portland in Washington, Buchanan at Fillmore, Polk and Cerrito? I'm concerned about overall coordination of San Pablo Avenue at Monroe and Dartmouth with this project. the UC projects, and the stormwater plan in front of Hertz. This project report should not be held up by the UC process, but I believe that there are some major discrepancies between all three. Sorry I cannot make the meeting today. Thanks, John.
I had a hand raised. Do you have something very quick?
Yeah, I'm James Silva with Splash Hub. I'm concerned about this direction of sort of putting off.
Why don't you come up for a moment and speak?
I'm concerned about separating the bus stop movement portion from the rest and pushing the plan forward, because this is such an integral corner, and if you push the plan forward, it's going to sort of by default, well, we've already done the rest of this. If you don't move the bus, if the bus stop stays where it is, it will have a huge impact on the rest of the plan. So you really have to solve the bus stop problem, otherwise it's going to be the default is you're going to end up moving it. And if moving it is a problem, if you're going to create this bottleneck and impact these businesses, you sort of have to acknowledge that, or don't recommend the plan and solve the problem. Because it's going to, by leaving the bus stop where it's at or moving it to mechanics, you're going to have all sorts of ramifications about the rest of the bike lanes and the bus stops and the parking and all of that. It's sort of the point of complete streets. You can't just take this one huge component about where you put the bus stop out. So please don't recommend
Thank you for that opinion. I'm sorry, I just want to take like 1 minute, not more than 30 seconds. I'll allow 1 minute, but this is going to be it.
I mean, I just don't, Sangeeta again from Max's Liquors, I just don't understand why you guys would not take in consideration moving the bus stop in front of Mechanics Bank. What's wrong with that? But I just want that have answered. What's wrong with that? If you must move it across the street, why not put it in front of the
We'd like to
bank?
answer that.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that.
Sure. I think it's a fair point to bring up, but our blocks in Albany are about 800 feet long, so having a northbound bus stop that's 800 feet away from the southbound bus stop and not at the transit hub that this intersection is, because we have buses on both San Pablo and Solano, and if you want to transfer from one to the other, you do it right there. You don't get off and walk 800 feet away down a very long block. So the same way that the customers for the businesses don't want to park further away, that for the bus stop, it won't work. So I think that's why we're not spending much time talking about that, because it really wouldn't function well. I appreciate the desire to try to be creative and come up with something, but I think we've sort of thought about it, and at this point it sounds like it really wouldn't work for AC Transit, it wouldn't work for the bus riders. I do want to be clear that when I say we want to push this issue separately, a couple of points that were brought up. First of all, it's not to just wait and then default into moving it. If we defaulted anything, it would be default to leave the bus stop where it is. Default is kind of a do nothing from my perspective. And if we're going to work on this more, as I said, I really think it needs to involve direct conversations with the business owners, not just wait till everyone forgets about it and do something. It is certainly not the intent. It really is to focus on it and give it some creative conversations, not at a commission meeting, but at a meeting where there can be really much more of a dialogue and conversation. I think that's where we can be more productive in coming up with good ideas and really hammering out some possibilities for it. In terms of whether or not we have to solve it, I think the idea of leaving the bus stop where it is versus doing a bulb out or moving it or whatever is not, at this point, something that's going to impact, for example, the sharrows or the bike facilities, the pedestrian facilities. That we do retain the pedestrian safety concern, but from the traffic perspective, it's a matter of degrees. It's how much traffic delay do we have if we have the bus stop in one place or another place or on a bulb out. So I don't think it's going to break the rest of the project by any means to leave this one unchanged versus some specific change. It's going to be just a question of how much travel time savings do we implement for the bus riders or the vehicle drivers or so forth. And I think that's something we can easily live with, and it's not transformative for the project as a whole.
Just quickly on the Mechanics Bank bus stop location, that would be this location here. This is Washington, this is Mechanics Bank right here. To place a bus stop on the near side of this intersection would be far worse than placing it on the near side of a signalized intersection, because this is an unsignalized crossing, and so people get off the bus, walk over here, cross the street in front of a stopped bus, and the drivers in this lane would not be able to see the pedestrians here. It's even worse to have a bus stop on the near side where you have this specific location of a marked crosswalk unsignalized across the street. You'd have to consider moving it beyond up to the far side, which isn't again in front of a business that doesn't have parking lot, so it doesn't solve the problem from a parking perspective, which I think was one of the goals of that suggestion.
Michael, I just happened to notice that the cutout or the ramp there is not parallel as it's illustrated. Yeah.
The ramp is more illustrative than anything else. It's not a detailed design.
I understand. I'm sorry.
The challenge, one of the things about curb ramps is that the ramp slope itself, the sloped part, has to be perpendicular to any grade break at the bottom of the ramp. And so to align the ramp with this, it's possible to do that, but you have to put a little triangle of flat space.
Right.
And that's something that would be done in detailed design, potentially. We like to line it up with crosswalks if we can, but we often just show them as sort of a symbol like this, perpendicular to the curb, because they have to be perpendicular to the grade break, which is the curb, right? Unless you slide it back, which you can do, but we don't, at this scale, we don't
Right,
try
it's
to
conceptual.
illustrate that.
Okay.
We could change those. I mean, I guess this one, this one's the other way, right?
Right.
And this area, little triangle space here would have to be flat in order to build it this way. We can certainly show all of them more like that if you'd like us to do that. It's easy to change.
If you can show the crosswalk
Right,
at the
John?
north end of Washington, that one actually, I think, looks
Yeah, I
the way
think
that we would
you're
like it to
right.
have it be. No, further north.
Oh, the north
At the
leg.
top.
That's what I was showing, yeah, right here.
No,
Oh,
across
the
the
north
intersection.
here.
That one.
Oh, that one, right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an easy change. I think we can easily make that change, right, John? Simple
And that's
enough
just
to
by
make that
sliding the
change.
crosswalk to the south.
Yeah, I
at
honestly
the
hadn't
other
noticed that,
location.
but good catch.
I was also looking at the illustration 3.1, which is position of crosswalks and shows street lighting on the street lighting coming on the traffic side of the crosswalk, so that people are lit on the front of their body for oncoming cars. But I think your illustration of the Taylor implementation, have I got the street name right? I think it's Taylor on Buchanan, actually has the street lights possibly on the wrong side on one of them.
That could be, we'll check.
Okay, that'd be great. And it's possible that your illustration number 3.6, I just saw it go by quickly. It might, it is,
That one has the lights in the wrong place.
okay, great.
We may just eliminate that one entirely, actually. I'm not sure why we even need that drawing. We've got
It's a little
drawings.
repetitive.
We can literally just show one of the drawings we drew. That's just a generic drawing. We can show one of the ones we drew of a staggered crossing, actually, and put that instead.
3.1 pretty well covers it, but, thank you. So there's a lot of information here. So you were looking for some direction from us on which illustration or what to show for the illustration on this bus stop. And I would be satisfied with the current illustration and a major call out as discussed. How is that for the rest of the commissioners?
That works.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay.
I've already noted that on here when you first recommended it. So, yeah, I think that's important. There are probably other things in this document, honestly, that we're going to want to call out a little more in the final version as well, as things that may need further thought or further discussion. As I was reading through it tonight and looking at it, I was like, we should probably highlight this a little bit more. We say it in the text, perhaps, but it's kind of hidden in the text, and figures jump a lot more than text. So I think that's something we can do in general for things that are sort of the final decision hasn't been made yet, essentially. I mean, even, for example, what happens with the UC Village development with the grocery store and the senior housing, like calling out that could change too. I mean, that sort of thing, maybe another example, but.
I definitely appreciate the detailed call-outs on critical points like that, because someone picks up the document, in 5 years from now, and we want the message to still be fresh, but, just because they weren't at this meeting, they shouldn't be unaware.
That's worked out pretty well with the active transportation plan. I think we certainly started dealing with some of the issues that were called out in that. Okay.
As we have more time to look more closely at these pages, what's the process for any other feedback that we might have?
Please send the feedback to me.
Okay.
And I'll send a set of consolidated comments to Michael.
Okay.
In early September. But
Okay.
please send your comments before August 30th or 31st, let's say, Saturday.
And that goes for the general public as well, of course. All of your comments this evening are part of the record. And if you have further comments or you have associates who were not able to be here, they should send their comments in as well.
So what's the next step as far as dialogue on the best possibilities for this corner? How do we move forward and have community dialogue?
Well, we can, what I'm reflecting on here is doing some outreach with the businesses and in some sort of a perhaps maybe more relaxed forum where we can sit down with the drawings of the intersection and listen to the concerns and try to brainstorm ways that address the issues, or at least make sure we fully understand the issues, and bring that back to you as part of, maybe as just some kind of part of the report that comes to you for your review, and incorporate that into your recommendation perhaps to the City Council, who would ultimately be making the decision on adopting.
So Jeff, when do you think this meeting should happen? Any timeline in particular?
Well, I think probably the sooner the better. To be, if I would say ideally during the comment period in the month of August. So maybe with Winky, see Winky waving her hand over there. We're happy to facilitate that. We'll help. We'll figure something out and pick a good time and place to do that.
Okay. Thank you for all the work.
So there was one additional thing that came up that if you want, I could answer this address it a bit. There was the question that was brought up about the intersection of Buchanan and Jackson and the signalization for a bike signal, perhaps. Lydia and I talked about that today, and I could give you some thoughts on that if you want to hear that tonight.
I think we've got a couple minutes for that.
Let me get there on the image here first. So the issue then is that there's the new path that's built here now, not fully open yet, but being used, it sounds like. And the concern is, and if I understand correctly, a person was bicycling along here on the path, and a bus made the right turn and cut them off. They were going in this direction, is that correct? Yeah. And so that conflict is a well-known conflict for any time you have a path alongside of a road. There are several ways to mitigate that. One, which is already being discussed for the next intersection down at San Pablo, is to signalize that separately from, signalize the through bicycle movement separately from the right turn movement. At San Pablo, you have a right turn lane, which makes it much easier to do, because you can allow through cars across on Marin, across San Pablo, while you allow through bicyclists and pedestrians on that south leg. And stop with a red arrow and a sign, or a sign that says no right turn during that time, a blank out typically, or could be a static sign, but typically use a blank out sign. It's like the arrow with the circle with a line through it that lights up whenever that comes up. Is the best. That's the way I recommend doing it. And so that's easy to do when you have a right turn lane. But when you have, John Mickey's emailing me, when you have the no right turn lane, it's much harder to do. And so the solution here you'd have to almost provide an exclusive phase for bicyclists along the south leg. And you could, for example, allow that to take place during this left turn movement, for example. During this left turn, or these through movements, the westbound through movement could take place during that. But you wouldn't be able to allow any through movements here. I mean, you could theoretically it's possible to do the blank out no right turn, but then what happens is you got a blank out no right turn. It says no right turn, but there's a green signal, and so a car wants to make a right, they're stopped here in the travel lane, and cars behind them are like, why is this person stopped? And that's a concern. I've seen that done when there's no right turn lane, but I honestly don't recommend it. The other solution would be sort of a leading bike interval, a leading pedestrian interval, where you give 5 seconds or more, perhaps, of time to start crossing here. But the remainder of the time that this green is on, bicyclists still would probably proceed through this and make that turn. You know, one of the challenge, if you make it exclusive, where it's just bikes and then just cars separately, the big challenge with that is you end up taking a lot of time away from bicyclists and potentially encouraging poor behavior. People running the light because they're like, there's not that much conflict. We see most of the cars going through, only a handful of cars turning right. Cars are going through here, why can't I? And so bicyclists will tend to disobey that if you don't give them very much time. So it's a challenge, a trade-off between sort of safety and convenience. But if it's inconvenient enough, it becomes less safe because behavior gets bad, right? And so a couple other solutions that I'm going to show you real quick that I sent to Alita today. Is this. It's really small. This is a standard sign in the MUTCD with just the pedestrian symbol, but Washington, D.C. added with a bike. And so it'd be the other way around, where it'd be a right turn arrow, not a left. Right turn arrow, turning vehicles yield to bikes and peds. So that would be maybe in addition to a leading bike interval, perhaps. Another solution besides the solution with a full signalization, I think would be a possibility. Or just a few other examples of what's been done elsewhere. This is an example of a sign that's been used in Denver and Boulder, Colorado for a similar situation to try to highlight that conflict. And there's another one similar, but a little bit different. None of these are standard signs. They're just things that cities have tried to deal with this same problem. So we can include some recommendations about this and some options for this in our report. And then this might be one you might have facing Jackson Street traffic, for example, approaching. Be one way to solve the problem. There's a safety concern there too, especially for cyclists coming from the San Pablo side. A motorist making a right turn on red, for example. If I go back to this, if there's a motorist making this right turn on red and a bicyclist coming across here, that motorist is looking primarily to their left. Yeah. It's a common conflict too. And so one simple way to solve that is simply not to allow right turns on red, just ban it. That may be your long-term solution there, honestly, because it's signalized. And they can only travel that right turn on red when it's right turn when it's green. The other solution would be to use a sign like that one that shows that it's a two-way crossing, a warning. It's not going to completely solve the problem, but at least it lets the driver know that to hopefully look to the right and not just to the left.
This is a situation we have in a couple different places in town, so we'd love some information in the report about that. Okay. About options.
So I just wanted to show you those now, and we'll include some of that in the report.
Terrific. Fareed.
So not to, again, design a new traffic control device on the fly here. But with regards to the signs, I think those are a good way to go. If we put a detector on the path that's bike sensitive, and you've seen the pedestrian crossing signs with the built-in LEDs, not the RFB, but kind of the older version. It kind of seems like if there's little blinking lights on that sign that go on when it detects a bike on the path at the right distance from the intersection that a turning vehicle has the potential to intersect it, it would really catch drivers' attention more. So,
yeah, or you could take this sign and make it a blank out, or something like this that highlights when a bicyclist is there. I think that's certainly a possibility. variations on that theme are certainly possible, yeah.
Hi, my name's Dawn Kawamoto, and I'm a former Ocean View elementary parent. And I'm really happy to hear you thinking about that corner, because as you talk about bicyclists, I want you to keep in mind there are school-age children, in addition to the bicyclists, but kids who aren't always, usually they're not paying attention. And so, you know, just as effective as a signal type of specific light it would be for the bikes, more importantly, it'll also help these school-age children at a it's right near the school. So please keep in mind the community you're dealing with at Jackson and Buchanan, as well as San Pablo and Marin, you know, because that's where a lot of the kids come across as well to go to Ocean View. So I think it'd be great if you got like a lighted signal, because, you know, cars will often sometimes ignore a static sign versus a signal light. And when you're doing...
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll certainly be talking about this in the future. Thanks for those ideas and for the report, and I think we'll move along. So we'd like to move on to item number 6.3, our report on the UC Village Mixed-Use Development Project. And this, again, is for information only, so we're not asked to make any kind of decision this evening.
Right. Michael, do you mind unplugging the serial cord there? So, yes, Mr. Chair, you're correct. This is just a quick update to bring you along with the project. The project overall is continuing through its planning process. We anticipate bringing this back to you on a monthly basis, perhaps in September, with a request to consider making a recommendation on the project. Planning and Zoning Commission held an extensive hearing last night on the project. I can show you some of the revisions to the plans. Starting with the senior housing, I'll just go to the first page. No major changes to it. If you'll recall, the access, vehicle and access and the public entrance to the senior housing is on San Pablo Avenue. Scroll down a couple pages. This shows you the ground floor layout. There's 106 parking spaces within the structure here. And then there's the public area of the senior housing with dining rooms and lobbies and so forth. Visitors, vehicles would enter off a driveway on San Pablo. They'd have a choice of either going into the parking structure or turning into the driveway where there'd be loading and unloading, then returning back out, a right turn only back onto southbound San Pablo. They'd also have the choice of, as they're leaving, either to go back out through this driveway or go west out towards 10th Street, towards the Little League fields, and then go back out Monroe into San Pablo or wherever they're going. The one major evolution of this since the last time you've seen this is that we're now in discussions with them about the feasibility of building the cycle track, which was originally a component of the creek restoration project, the adjacent creek restoration project, but building this pedestrian cycle path as a part of the project so that there wouldn't be a period of time when the building is there but there's no separate bicycle facility. It would also be used as an emergency exit discharge in the event of an emergency in the building, but that would be, of course, very rare, we hope, so there wouldn't necessarily be conflicts. Nonetheless, there was some public comment last night about needing to make sure that the Monroe Street that functions as a bicycle facility for those who choose to use it that way, who might be traveling into the village or just prefer to travel in the vehicle lane. For the retail portion of the project, I believe you saw this last month. The progress on this is quite significant. In particular, let me zoom in a little bit. separate driveway into the retail parking for the grocery store has been eliminated. So this area here, this is Monroe Street. All the vehicles would come in here, the trucks would come in, the thin line, let me maybe zoom in a little bit more. These thin lines that are traced on the image are the truck turning radiuses. So now the truck can get in off of Monroe, make the maneuver, hopefully away from the heavy pedestrian and bicycle activity, get into the loading dock and then back out again. There is a little bit of a concern expressed about the distance that is required from for this intersection in order that a large truck can make the turn in and out and have a left turn lane, which we expect will be necessary for the volume of traffic that will be leaving the store at peak hours. So it's a long travel distance for a pedestrian, and we're going to work with the team a little bit more on that to see if there's some creative ways that we can deal with that to shorten that distance. And again, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. The parking configuration along Monroe continues to evolve a little bit, as you can see here. I think in some of the earlier versions, you might have seen some various types of angled parking. It's more in the perpendicular form now, except for right there. And we'll continue to work with them on that to make sure that works. We will be doing some parking surveys of comparable facilities to make sure that the parking that's being provided is what this type of grocery store needs. The developer feels strongly that they do need this. It's not an unusual request for a grocery store to want to have quite a bit of parking, since they really focus in on their peak hours and they want to be able to serve their customers in the peak hours and the busy days. But as I mentioned, we'll be doing some research at other Sprouts stores to make sure that this is at least comparable with what they're experiencing in other communities in the Bay Area. So we'll be going forward with this. I expect that in September we'll be bringing you a more detailed report with more refined plans. The other thing I should mention is that we have forwarded these proposals to Caltrans for their review to look at the portion of the improvements that are within the Caltrans right-of-way and get their feedback on a pre-application basis on the feasibility of the two-way bicycle path, the intersection treatment, and so forth. And we look forward to hearing from them from their perspective on the project. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the commission? We did spend some serious time on this last time, right, and the plans do look familiar. So I'll open it up to public comment.
Is this the same as you had yesterday, Don?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. My name is Dawn Kawamoto. I'm a former Ocean View parent. And also, I was one of those walking school bus drivers for Safe Schools throughout. And what my concern is regarding the retail and the senior housing that's going here is that it's going to increase the traffic on Jackson Street. And what ideally I hope is that the UC would provide an easement and the developer will pay for like a boardwalk or sidewalk that will help the kids coming from Monroe Street walking to Ocean View, as well as the kids coming from UC Village, get to the school a little bit safer. So right now the way it is there is the sidewalk coming from UC Village over here, kids are coming this way. And because there's a chain link fence, this is a parking lot right in front of Ocean View. And so cars in the morning and in the afternoon, they come in, they drop kids off, and then they exit to go onto Jackson Street. Well, the kids are walking on the sidewalk, and they walk right in front of oncoming traffic to get to school. So they come this way, and then they come down to the school. What I'm hoping is that there's some land right here on UC Village, and that the UC would provide an easement, and the developer will pay to put like a boardwalk or sidewalk right alongside the parking lot. There's a creek here. So the kids coming would come down this way, avoid the traffic, come down this way, and then cross where there's a little driveway that goes to the back of the school that isn't as used or heavily trafficked as much, and then cross over here to where the school is. So I talked to the school board members. I sent them an email this morning. They're going to bring it up at their next school board meeting and vote on whether or not to do an endorsement of this proposal and forward it on to the city council. In a 2-hour span yesterday, I got like a little over 24 signatures from parents on Keynes, Stanage, Cornell, Evelyn, Dartmouth, and I plan to get more signatures in support of this proposal. So what ideally, it'd be great if you all on the Traffic Commission would also want to wish to do an endorsement of something like this as well. I'm hoping, the university will provide the easement and the developer would be willing to just pay for putting something here to make it a little safer. When I went to the Planning Commission last night, I also learned that there's not going to be a 4-way signal light at Jackson and Monroe. And having done the walking school bus, and then also if you're a bicyclist too, I don't know if you could do that intersection there, but.
You're actually running out of time.
Oh, I'm sorry. So basically, I know that there was a traffic study done already saying the traffic wasn't bad enough to warrant a signal light, but I'm wondering if that traffic study was done before or after all the additional housing went into University Village, which would then affect the amount of traffic. So when was the traffic study done, before that extra building was done? And secondly, was the time that the study was done, was it during when school wasn't in session or when it was a staff development day when there was no school? So I'm going to read the report. That's 80 pages. I got it today. I'm going to read it very carefully to see what day.
And then you can come back.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you off.
Hello, Preston Jordan again. This time I am speaking for strollers and rollers, just to be clear about that. And I think that's a very fascinating idea you brought up in terms of putting a sidewalk there. So we'll definitely look at that and look at supporting that. I think there's an issue with the creek, though. It can't go it would have to go in the driveway, so you might have to lose a parking space. In other words, it couldn't go on the other side of the chain link fence because that's the bank down to the creek, I'm pretty sure. So you'd have to take up part of the driveway, I think. But I think there's a way to do it. As far as the Belmont Village side of the project, the project as a whole is pretty amazing how it's evolved. It has paths all the way around it, walking paths all the way around, and cycling paths around most of it, which is really commendable. I don't know any other project in Albany that's ever done anything like this, so it's really amazing. Developers deserve a lot of credit for going there. There are, a few, I think, remaining issues that need to be worked out. So this is the Belmont Village plan. Oh, you're not, okay. Oh, thanks. Thank you. And so this is San Pablo up at the top, and here's Monroe over here. And if I zoom in, this is the bus stop, and it's also shown on the elevation. I can go in even further. It's shown on the front elevation as well, which I can show. But this is the shelter for the bus stop over here, so it's on the west side or the back side of the sidewalk. So the idea is people would wait in the bus shelter, the bus comes, and then they cross the sidewalk, cross the cycling path, get on the bus. We don't think that's really an ideal situation. If you have 10 people waiting to get on the bus and then they all kind of rush across to get on the bus, we think there might be a better way to do that. Also, it's showing the transit stop on the cycle track. So another way to do this, which this is a picture from Vancouver and a cycle track in Vancouver, they have room for people to wait on the street side of the cycle track. So this is actually a speed table or a speed hump, so people walking on the sidewalk can cross at grade. Cyclists have a speed hump, so it tends to calm cyclists and slow them down, and then people can wait for the bus in the appropriate position. In a way to possibly, one idea of how to achieve that here is to have the sidewalk and the cycle track go a little bit further to the west, and that would make an island out here that people could wait on. So we'd hope that the city would look at that. The other issue is the westbound direction, Monroe Street. We would like that to be improved for cycling. And why only the westbound direction? Because that's nighttime when a lot of people are returning from UC, and they might not want to use the paths because those feel less safe for some people, so they might want to bike on Monroe westbound only. And so if just the westbound direction could be improved for cycling, that would be great. It's this perpendicular parking, which we haven't heard if that's even really feasible, because motorists pulling back out are going to cross the center line of the street. So we think there's issues with that side, and we would hope that you look at it. Thanks very much.
Hi, Harry Chomsky. I'm speaking for Albany Strollers and Rollers, and I'd like to reiterate Preston's enthusiasm about how many great amenities this project has for pedestrians and cyclists. A couple of small issues of concern. One is the widths of the sidewalks along San Pablo. I believe they were 5 feet wide, and they were up against the buildings in the previous version that we saw, and there was some concern that that was not really giving enough space for the volume of pedestrian usage that was going to be drawn by these facilities, and I'm wondering if there's been any progress in discussing possibly widening those. And the other issue, I think someone spoke to this before, but I didn't quite get all the details. If the project is going to be built in phases with the grocery store going in first before the senior housing, we'd like to make sure that all of the cycling paths get built as part of the first phase, even though some of them are located in what will be the second phase. So that would include the bicycle path along San Pablo, and also the bicycle path along Coronesis Creek, and also any bicycle treatments along 10th Street. Thanks.
Okay. Comments from commissioners?
I'll just say, with regards to the bus stop, certainly it makes sense to have a place where passengers can wait, where they're not going to be darting across the cycle track when the bus arrives. So I think that's a good suggestion. It really is a question of geometrically, is it going to fit? What's going to fit? A raised crossing of the cycle track for pedestrians, again, is a good idea, if not flat out required by ADA to get access to the bus. Because if someone's offloading from the bus and they put down the ramp to roll out, they've got to have a level area to get onto. So I think it really bears an ADA review just to be sure that everything works. The concept is very straightforward. I think someone needs to take some measurements and figure out what's going to fit. If the project is willing to fund an improvement at the Ocean View driveway, that's great. I mean, the EIR is passed, so in terms of mitigations, it's not an absolute requirement. But that does, again, remind me to ask or comment that we need to make sure that when the project gets built, that we have a no right turn on red sign on Buchanan at Jackson. Because again, we don't want to have people who are trying to get to the grocery store take a shortcut through the village. And if that, if the light to go straight is red, then no, I'll just make a right turn, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to stay on Buchanan all the way to San Pablo, which I think once the light's green, that's a faster route for them, because going through the village is slow, frankly. I don't even like to do it on my bike. So just my thoughts on that.
I too like the idea on the Ocean View walkway. It's needed regardless, something's needed there regardless of whether the Sprouts goes in. I mean, it's a tricky area. I am a little nervous about the additional traffic that's going to happen right there. That is my commute on a bike. It's going to be interesting. What happens when that development goes in. But the plans on the whole development, I too echo. I think they're listening, and it's showing that they're trying to work within our city, which is good.
Yeah, I'd also want to echo that I think it's great that development has changed as much as it has. It obviously shows, you're paying attention to a lot of different people. I'm still not real excited about the perpendicular parking. If it has to be, it has to be, but I'd certainly encourage you to look at that on Monroe. I just, for a variety of reasons, I just don't like it. And I think part of it is the concern about people backing way out and the bicycle traffic. As far as this proposal, I think it's a little late in the game to be asking for any other amenities from the developers. I think if the school board wants to talk to the university, that's up to them. We've worked really hard on this. I would hate to see another wrinkle thrown in at this point, honestly.
I should note that John Lehman with BKF is here representing the development team, the Belmont Village development team. I neglected to introduce him.
Do we need to read John's stuff?
Oh, does John have a comment on this, Aleda?
He
Go
has
ahead.
that long email.
Go ahead, please.
You have it? Yeah.
Okay, this is another email from John Mickey. Please forward to traffic and safety members. I'd like these on the record and forwarded on as written to other boards. Senior housing project comments. I still have reservations about the parking garage frontage along 10th Street and San Pablo Ave. While this is not directly related to many of the issues that come to us, I do feel the lack of active spaces along San Pablo and 10th Street are a detriment to the quality of the streets where we are working to create into complete streets projects. These frontages would not match up well with what Dan Burden discussed with us on the walking audit along San Pablo. There is almost a complete lack of eyes on the street and creek. The frontage along San Pablo is either set back under a drop-off area or a parking garage. On 10th Street, there is now no active frontage at all, just blank wall and parking garage. Much of the creek frontage is also blank wall, providing no eyes on the creek. I fully understand that changes were needed since the previous plans were not done in consultation with the current senior housing developer and operator. I do not know if these plans were consistent. I do not know if these plans are consistent with the development agreement, but I feel they are not in keeping with the spirit of what was shown beforehand. Signed, John.
Okay. Well, I'm also appreciative that the developers have been responsive to concerns. I think they've shown a lot of flexibility, and I certainly appreciate that. I, too, am still worried about the parallel parking and whether that fits and how that's going to work with what really is a city street, even though it's on UC property. I just don't think that would function well. Another thing that recently came to my attention is that bike sharing is being rolled out in San Francisco at the end of the summer, and is expected to expand to the East Bay within a year. So I would encourage the developers to look at making sure that some of the bike rack space fits the footprint of a bike share station, I think that would help attract customers and be another great way of fitting into the community. Any other comments? All right. Let's move on to our next item. Number 6.4, a report on the Albany Active Transportation Plan striping and signage projects. And again, this is for our information only.
This is just information. We are going to process a contract agreement with City Council between Fair Pierce and the city for the development of the striping and signage plans. I have basically, the idea is to, before the kickoff, during the kickoff meeting, we're going to have a bicycle tour. So you guys are invited if you want. I'm going to let you know when it's going to happen. But I would like everybody, we can actually have some walking tour too. So, and some people bicycling along the projects that we go. There are 15 projects, 15 streets. And I think we're going to take kind of like maybe a whole morning or something like that. But I want to let you know it's going to happen in September. And you're invited. Everybody's invited who wants to join.
Great. Questions from the commission? Public comment?
Hello again. So this is the active transportation cycling facility map, and I wanted to take the opportunity to make a few suggestions as to some small alterations that could be made. The diversion of the Santa Fe route over to, I think this is Curtis, was actually done at my suggestion when I was on the technical advisory committee, because I was trying to provide access to the Calusa Circle. But I since realized, city was accommodating and doing that, and I have since realized I need to understand the geography better here, because there's a street from Santa Fe called Oakview that connects right to the circle, and so it would make much more sense to continue the route on Santa Fe than to have it jog over one street. So I would suggest, and I know this may be onerous in terms of process, I don't know if the city council has to approve it, but I would suggest that the route stays on Santa Fe rather than jogging over one street. Another suggested change is that Portland in this section is probably wide enough to do cycling lanes. It can't come all the way down because of the angle parking on Monroe, but it's wide enough, I believe, probably all the way from Calusa on down to here to do cycling lanes. And that's a better facility, and it's got the width. If it has the width, you have the consultant look at it. If it has the width, I don't see any reason not to do it, to help people get down to Albany High School and the Memorial Park from that area. This section of Portland is included as a cycling route, and our recollection is that that wasn't really needed or called for. I'm not quite sure where that came from. And we had input that it should be a cycling route going east from the Albany Greenway to connect to connect from the Greenway to this major destination. And while, of course, it'd be nice to have a cycling route on every street in some sense, this segment really isn't serving a major destination. It doesn't serve a crossing at San Pablo. And so it's not of the nature of the other routes that are connecting to significant destinations in the city. So we think it would make more sense not to do that portion there if possible. And then finally, this block of Talbot is one way, and this is shown as a route, so I don't know how the city is going to handle that, but that's an opportunity perhaps to paint in a contraflow lane on one block in the city and view that as a pilot for how it could work. And it would fulfill that part of the plan, and a lot of people ride this now. But
Talbot by the Cerrito Plaza.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Right, yeah. What people do now is they come up here and then they turn left and right or whatever and use Cornell, but Cornell doesn't have a four-way stop, so it's not as comfortable of an intersection. I can say even, driving there is not as comfortable because sight lines aren't that great and people pull out and there's a lot of traffic, so I think it's better for cyclists if they can really just stay on Talbot and go through. Thanks so much.
Seeing no other public comment, I'll bring it back to the commissioners. Aleda, what is the process? There'll be the kickoff meeting and the tour.
There will be a kickoff meeting and the tour, and then we are going to have 35% design presentation here at the Traffic and Safety Commission, 65, 95, and recommendation for the approval.
Okay.
That's basically typically what we do with the other larger projects. Well,
Great.
this is, I mean, if you think about 15 projects, it's quite large. So we might want to split some of the project when we have, I don't remember if it's 65 or 35%. We are going to split the city in two sections, or the minutes. So we're going to discuss 6 and or 7 and 8 because it's going to be too long, and we're going to have public notice for all of these neighborhoods, even though it's just striping, but they should know.
Wow, okay.
Get
That's
ready.
a lot of public notice, yeah. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So we have item 6.5, a report on Buchanan Marin Bikeway construction activities.
We're just keeping the webcast system up to date with the agenda item. So it takes us
great.
a moment or two to do that.
The report on construction activities. As you know, the median is being now moved 2 or 3 feet, and the traffic signal will be implemented starting next week. We're actually anticipating that this project is going to finalize by the end of August, and at the most maybe the first week of September. What else? Let's see. The striping on Buchanan and Pierce is going to be the 444 striping, similar to the one what we have at the Ohlone Greenway. And for the striping east-west on Pierce, there was a suggestion of having the same 444, but since it's not exactly, the sidewalk actually is not a bicycle facility, and it's coming from the pavement area, from the pavement, the bicycle lane going into the curb ramp. We are suggesting a set of, maybe we can put it on the, I don't know if we're going to have a good vision, but a set of, we have a preference, but it's basically from the NACTO, maybe by the,
I'm not getting the projector to work, I'm sorry.
remember that. So it's fine, but maybe we can pass it around. We really like the one with the bicycle stencil. It's a series of dotted lines parallel to the crosswalk, and I think that actually will better carry in the message. Just, yeah, I don't know.
Which one is your preference?
Well, our preference is the one with the, no, not that one. Or is that yours? Yeah, the one with the bicycle. Okay. I mean, it's not set in stone, we can change it, but that's basically what we're trying to do. I mean, there are 4 options. So that's the one
Which crosswalk is this? I'm sorry.
that is a east-west Pierce Buchanan.
East-west, Pierce at Buchanan.
Amy Mullins suggested having the 444, and the 444 is basically what you have by Ohlone, with the bicycle stencil in the middle. But that actually indicates that there's an extension of the bicycle facility of 2 points. And in this case, the bicycle facility is a bicycle lane on the street, on the travel lane, on the street.
Right.
So if we do a 444, that will indicate that bicycles are okay to ride on the sidewalk. And then by doing something like that, we can actually indicate, and merge into the ramp, we can indicate that the bicycles, to the motorists that are actually at the intersection, that bicycles will be crossing the street. So that's basically it. So I send this to ACOM today. The other thought, but this is after the project. This project is finished. Is basically, as I said before, is that we're going to work on widening the ramps. The side by the USDA and the concern that basically Anna has and Ray about the north west side of Pierce is that it might encourage vehicles to actually enter into the intersection. So we have to have some treatments to actually discourage that. Maybe some signage. We don't have to have bollards, but something that some architectural feature that actually carries the message saying this is not for you, it's for bicycles only. And I think there's some signage that we can work with that right now. Jeff Rubendahl mentioned he said light post or traffic signal post that will be kind of in the middle. I didn't see anything today. I've been seeing, but I don't think, and I hope that the traffic signal is not there in the middle. Otherwise, it will ruin the whole. So it has not been poured yet. So I'm gonna send an email tonight. 10. Yeah, I want to send an email tonight, and I want to let him know that I don't see anything that is clear that we can do the wider ramp. I mean, things are happening as we speak here right now, so we have to be really fast.
Yeah, great. Looks good. Oh, wait, I'm not following protocol. Any questions? Public comment?
So just very quickly, I want to thank staff for the creative solution. Having this sort of cycling facility parallel to next to the crosswalk, I think will be a great amenity and great way to proceed with it. There is no post between the two ramps on the northwest corner or anything right now, as far as I've seen. So it is wide open. There's nothing there.
But next week, the traffic signal will be
right, but the
installed.
foundation for that, I mean, the bolts for that are already in and they're off to the side from where the two ramps are. So thinking down the line to the concern that Michael Moll brought up, which is the joint in the middle of the westbound cycling lane between the concrete, Portland concrete paving and the asphalt paving. And this obviously isn't an issue that's going to be solved by this project, but I'm curious, the undergrounding project that's coming up, would it be possible to underground essentially along the cycling path so that when it got repaved, it would solve that problem?
You're talking about the joint, the concrete and asphalt for the lane. We're working on that with ACOM. We're working on having a solution for that.
Okay. I mean, I was just suggesting maybe it could be solved as a natural consequence of the undergrounding project.
It could if the undergrounding would be happening on that segment of Buchanan.
Of the street, yeah.
But basically, the undergrounding is actually from San Pablo to Masonic. That is the portion that we're doing right now.
No. Well, okay, but I mean, the undergrounding district includes Buchanan, but it's not going to be done.
But that segment, which is phase 1, phase 2, don't quote me right now.
Okay, yeah, sure.
That is going to happen in about 15 years when we accrued enough
oh, I see.
credits.
So there isn't enough funding to do the whole thing right now?
No.
So we're going to do the...
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have to work on a solution.
All right. So
sooner than that.
Some other solution.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We're anxious to find a solution to that sooner rather than later. It's something that should be, to the extent that we have resources, we want to deal with it right away.
Comments from the commission? I think the parallel path marked in some fashion is a great solution to help give some visibility to the issue and to encourage cyclists to use the off-street overpass. So, great. In the interest of giving Aleda plenty of time to make an email to this evening, I will move things along to number 66. Report on developments related to the general plan update.
We're working on it. No, I'm sorry. Get punchy after 10 o'clock, 3 meetings in a row.
Wow.
We are making nice progress on the general plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission had a briefing, as they tend to do at least once a month. Spend an hour and a half working on it. At this point in time, we're primarily focusing on the map, the land use map, and refining that and modernizing it to bring it up to contemporary planning practices, and beginning to think about perhaps some of the issues that we may want to address in the general plan. The other thing that we've accomplished in the last month is went through a selection process to hire a consultant to prepare the environmental impact report. We interviewed 2 firms, including a representative from the commission, and have selected for LSA, which is a Berkeley-based firm. They've done a large number of general plan EIRs in the Bay Area, and have also been involved in projects here in Albany. And the project manager for LSA also happens to be an Albany resident, so we feel like we have someone who's well equipped to help us on that. So you can expect later this fall a kickoff meeting to start the environmental review process, and not sure exactly when, but we will be coming back. Barry Miller, the consultant, will be coming back once he begins to kind of develop the transportation-related policies, then pulling those out of the active transportation plan, the complete streets work, and so forth, and give you a chance to comment on those. That'll probably be later in the fall, towards the end of the year, I would imagine. If you're interested, keep monitoring the progress of the project. Our website, albany2035.org, is the place to do that, and has a YouTube video, which we're kind of excited about, which is innovative for us at least. And then also there's a place to comment. We're kind of at this point just some general comments, looking for people to kind of give us some thematic things that they're interested in about Albany, what they like about Albany. But as time goes on, as issues come up that we're struggling with, we hope to use the website so that people have other ways to give input other than to stay at meetings like this late into the evening. Although that's great too. So anyhow, we are making good progress. Be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Questions from the commission?
I guess I have a question. The website, I spent far too much time looking at it this morning. How often does it get updated? It looks like nothing's happened since May, and I think a lot of stuff has happened. So is that something that Barry Miller's office does, or how does that work?
It's a combination of Barry is a one-person operation,
Right, I know.
so his office. It's a combination of work with Jeremy and with Barry, and I probably haven't looked at it since May either, so I apologize if there is anything fresh on there. We will update. We do have some staff reports that have been prepared since then, that we'll put those on there so you can see everything that's been written on it since then. That should be done right away.
Public comment?
So I'm just curious what the appropriate time for the public to give input is, and I think you said the website. I have some thoughts. I don't want to go into it now by any means, and I don't know if there's going to be like kind of a charrette type thing at some point, or when it's going to kind of get rolled out in a more, less formal way than just having it on commission agendas.
We're not at this point, we don't have a plan for a particularly charrette or community meeting or task force, anything like that. The Planning and Zoning Commission is functioning as the task force or general plan guidance committee, whatever you want to call it. And so they are having work sessions for an hour and a half at their regular meetings, and that would be the opportunity to do that. And there's generally a theme to those work sessions. And certainly when it gets to be transportation and related, we'll make a particular point of bringing it to the attention of the commission. But do keep an eye on Planning and Zoning Commission agendas. I think that will really be the place where you can most effectively engage in the process.
comments from the commissioners? Then let's roll right along. Item number 6.7, report on initial meetings from the ad hoc subcommittee to work on updates to the municipal code. And it should be plural, ad hoc subcommittees. It's okay. We'll just assume committee is plural. Again, if you have procedural updates on what your subcommittees are doing, I'd love to hear it.
Well, I can tell you that parking parking subcommittee is meeting next Tuesday, and the administration meeting is next Wednesday.
Great. Good luck on initiating your committees.
If we can offer any support to you, we're happy to do that. Just let us know.
Parking is Tuesday,
July 30th.
admin is Wednesday.
Thank you. That's great.
And I think you send a Doodle document or Google document with some,
I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
yeah, me too.
But I've initiated for the transportation subcommittee, I've initiated a Google document so that we can start looking at more concretely at which of the statutes we want to address and how we might address those. So that'll help us collaborate on that, I think.
Yes. I got on.
Great.
Reestablished my password.
Terrific. Public comments? Great. I think that's all we have on that. Announcements and communications.
There is the Alameda County Sustainable Communities Technical Assistance Program, and of course, I have to check. I have to do a reality check. I have 3 projects in mind, and maybe you can give me some direction. We have we want to apply for the city. I think the priority is a parking feasibility study in the commercial area of Albany. The other project that I had in mind is Complete Streets plan for Solano Avenue, and just applying for the a solution for the bicycle boulevards on Keynes and Adams. So the applications are due September 17th. And I have vacation coming up, so I let's see how we're gonna. But I want to apply for these 3 projects.
Just to give you a little background on this program, the Alameda County Transportation Commission is kind of an innovative idea, and it's exciting for us. They basically have a bunch of consultants on call that they will make available to us. They'll pay them, they'll contract with them, they do all the administrative side of it, and basically they're a consultant on that specializes in the different things that are available to us. We have to apply for that and make a proposal to them, and they hope that there's some spin-off that are benefit to other communities. But basically, it's expanding the resources that are available to us to address some of the issues.
And the best thing is to administer the grant. They will be doing it.
We don't have to do anything other than let them in the door. It's great. It really helps us.
We used that on the Washington Hillside area, right?
This is different.
No, it's different.
That's a UC Berkeley program.
That is UC Berkeley, yeah.
But a similar idea?
Similar idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I might be getting, asking for letters of recommendation from the Strollers and Rollers, and maybe from the Traffic and Safety Commission, from Winky for the Solano Avenue. I do have an old application I submitted to Caltrans for Solano, also Complete Streets, that was not successful, so I can want to use that as a basis of this application, because it's basically submitting like a grant application for them. The other one, but for this other 7.2 is for 7.2, there is the last cycle of the Safe Routes to Transit grant, and I have more time. It's due in October. This is an opportunity to apply for funds to implement the pedestrian and bicycle wayfinding program, at least in the commercial area if they don't give me everything. Seems really.
It's a lot.
So you've got these 4 granting opportunities, or application opportunities, which is a lot of work. So you're looking for some prioritization from us, or?
For the city,
It's not really agendized for that.
Yeah.
It's just giving you some information on some of what we're working on.
Okay.
I mean, administratively, I think we're going to set up some priorities, and it's the parking is the priority, because we haven't really done much about parking that I'm aware of. Maybe you are aware.
Right. This would be complementary to the general plan, where one of the major policy issues in the general plan is to look at our parking policies and programs and evaluate Measure D, some of the other things we've talked about over the years with permit parking or paid parking, and bring someone in that's an expert on that to help us think through some of those issues. So that's why it's an important priority for me to have that in-house, bring in-house some expertise on parking policies. And it may turn out to be something that really complements the subcommittee that's working on that as well.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that information then. Let's move on to future agenda items. And it sounds like we're talking about an additional meeting to deal with the intersection issues that came up tonight, or the bus stop moving issue. Am I wrong about that?
That doesn't necessarily have to be the commission. What I had in mind was a staff-facilitated discussion with the consultants, perhaps with the business representatives. If you wanted to be there, we'll certainly let you know about it. We probably need to think about the Brown Act part of it if a quorum of you want to be there. But it might be better just to have a dialogue. Sometimes that's really helpful. And then the group can report, both city staff and the business people can report back to you that there was maybe a consensus reached, or maybe there wasn't, but here are what the issues were. If you would prefer to make that a commission meeting, that probably would be good to hear from you about that.
I don't think we need to make it that formal.
No, I think the idea was what you're saying, the staff
Okay.
level.
Great. So then, looking ahead to our September meeting, we would expect to see the Complete Streets final report, an item on Peralta Posen traffic calming, Marin Curtis Safe Routes to School project, possibly a bike boulevards in Berkeley with residents from experienced blocks, and Canes and Adams bicycle facility concept. That last one.
Yeah. Well, that's future meeting. That's not in September, so
Okay.
it could be future. So.
Right. So some subset of these and other issues that come up between now and then. Okay.
Were we going to keep Washington on the horizon?
You know what?
We did request that in the last minutes.
Right. That's right,
Or
and
at
I
the
thought
last
I had
meeting.
put it here. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Washington.
Yeah. Can I? Well, I want to report anyway. So under announcements, we are actually today we mark where the barricades will go at the intersection of Gayview and in Washington. And I added also one at Cerrito, at that weird intersection, Cerrito and Washington, a little bit of realignment. There's going to be
Great.
plastic barricades filled with water just for the time being, and then let's see how. I want to measure the speeds again to see if they actually go from 20, I think it was, to closer to 15.
Great.
We're doing this in stages.
And can I just clarify, they're not barriers like you can't go through, they're barriers you go around, is that?
You go
That's
around.
correct.
Those are,
There's a
have you
better
seen
word for it.
those that are filled with water, like the ones that were installed by Santa Fe in Marine during the construction?
Right. But I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't blocking the street, it was just having cars.
Is it like a bulb out?
Right, it's a calming measure.
It's a calming measure, but if this is effective, it will eventually turn out into a bulb out.
Right.
That's what it is. Money.
Right. With that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much.